Thank you, gentlemen. We are now live.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Silverton Board of Trustees on May 10th, 2021. The time is now 7:02 p.m. and I'm calling this meeting to order. Clerk Freeze, roll call, please.
Trustee Barlow.
Here.
Trustee Harper. Trustee Wager.
Here.
Trustee Gerber.
Here.
Trustee George.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney.
Here.
Mayor Corbin.
Here. Administrator Edwards, would you like to lead the Pledge of Allegiance?
Good. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one
Nation under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tonight, do we have any staff or board revisions to this agenda?
Yes, there is a letter from the 4th of July Association that can be put under probably old business,
This?
continued business,
Okay. We like to add it first or last?
doesn't matter.
Adding a new item E. Letter from 4th of July committee.
Continued business 10 under 5 after OHVs.
I think you're looking at just a differently formatted copy of the agenda. But yes, it would be 10-5. The copy I have is 10E. Any other revisions to tonight's agenda? Mr. Edwards?
Not that I have.
Time. We will now open up this meeting for public comment. Comments must be limited to 3 minutes in duration. If you're participating via Zoom, please click the raise hand button and our esteemed Nathan Baxter will promote you to panelist in order to speak. Doesn't look like we have any public comments at this point, so we will now close public comment in this first public comment period and move on to presentations and proclamations. And the first item we have under 3A, proclamation for EMS week, May 16th to 22nd, which is going to be presented by Clerk Freeze.
Okay. So I'd like to also say Tyler George had a fantastic Tyler George, except I think July 1st, yes. And so council this week, 2021. Service have increasingly become the frontline public service providing emergency and primary care. Recognition of their dedication and commitment to serving the citizens of Colorado and to provide life care 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Directly affect the citizens of the town of Silverton. And whereas access to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival quality of life recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury related to traumatic injury, respiratory and cardiac arrest, and many other medical emergencies. And whereas emergency medical service providers have traditionally served as the safety net of America's healthcare systems. As whereas many physicians, nurses, firefighters, emergency medical technicians in town of Silverton have devoted their lives to serving others. And whereas emergency service providers in the town of Silverton and volunteers are paid career staff have dedicated to a tremendous amount of time and effort in upgrading their training, education to provide and improve emergency medical services to our citizens. And whereas the observed of Emergency Medical Service Week will recognize the accomplishments of all members of the emergency medical care team, including paramedics, emergency medical technicians, emergency medical dispatchers, first responders, firefighters, search and rescue members, ski patrollers, law enforcement officers, flight for life nurses, and flight paramedics and pilots. Now therefore, we, the board of the town of Silverton, hereby proclaim the week of May 16th through May 22nd, 2021 as Emergency Medical Services Week in the town of Silverton, and urge all citizens to recognize and honor all emergency medical services provided in the town of Silverton.
Thank you very much. Is there anything you'd like to add, Trustee George?
No, thank you very much for the proclamation. Yeah, it's those folks, all of the EMS firefighters and search and rescue people work really hard at keeping up their certifications and training and stuff. And it's very nice that you've read that proclamation to recognize them. I will not be showing you, I guess, voting on this because I think I should recuse myself as part of the EMS service, but thank you for the proclamation.
I'm in full support. I think we all know how hard our emergency services personnel in Silverton and San Juan County work, and nationwide as well. But these mountains are definitely scary and challenging and create some significant issues that increase the risk of our emergency services. So thank you, and I'm in full support of this proclamation. Any other trustees like to say anything, or
No,
everybody in support?
I concur.
Yep, full support. Thank you.
Your week, Emergency Medical Services Week. What is it?
May 16th.
May 16th to 22nd. Fantastic. Thank you all. All right, the next item we have on the agenda is 3B, Community Builders, presentation by Clark Anderson.
See if he's on the participants. He had mentioned that he was coming in person. He may be coming from from Glenwood, so I would say let's maybe put this off, and if he makes it, we'll let him present that. It's with Community Builders.
Okay, in case members of the public didn't hear that, the presenter for Community Builders has not yet joined the meeting, so we're going to move past this item for now, and hopefully we'll be able to jump back to it at a later point in the meeting. So the next item we have is the financial report.
Couple things. The first thing I want to let everybody know, it just came to my attention this evening that the sales tax chart for February numbers, right? This goes in, let me make sure. It's 2 months in arrears. That's line 6. No, I guess this is mid-March numbers. So that is, we came in with $60,000. That's last year we had $24,000. Just to give you an idea, I think everybody knows that we were down because of COVID and the pandemic. But if you compare it to 2019, we had $32,000. That's almost 100% more than even 2 years ago that we were this March. So it was a really good March. In regards to the financial packet, Kelly, did you want to present anything?
No.
Okay. Are there any questions on the financials at this point?
No, sir.
The financial committee did meet. I think, I don't know if Trustee George, Trustee Barella, Trustee Harper, if you want to weigh in on any of that meeting, other than I thought it went well.
I will. Most of the items that we spoke about are actually in the packet. Further down on the list, things that we need to discuss. We had gone in to make sure that we knew exactly what the picture was that the town had and to make sure the reserves were all met. And there was a shortcoming on the sales taxes, but now that has finally come in from the county. So we were waiting on that.
And that just came in late this evening. I'm sorry I didn't get it to you. I just saw it when I was up here, but we're doing pretty well. So we, again, if we are 142% up from last year in March, we were 24% up in February, and we were 32% up in January from the previous year.
The largest negative variance that I saw was the property taxes, which I assume is just because we haven't received them yet. It's just a zero until we do. What's the timing of those property taxes being counted?
I had talked to them last month about this. Maybe it was last month at the end of the month, and they thought that was coming. But it comes twice is my recollection. I think there's one big one earlier in the year and then one later. Do you know, have you talked to them about that? The other is we have
I'm sorry, would you put your mask up a little bit?
we have a joint budget. On the joint budget, we reconcile that, and I think we have money. I think we have somewhere in the neighborhood of $35,000 to $40,000 coming from the county for that as well. But I don't know what the number is on the property taxes. I anticipate them sooner rather than later.
Thank you. Any other discussion or questions on the finances presented? All right. So moving on to new business, public hearing for the Murphy application. We're actually right on time. Consideration to approve the use subject to review application. So since this is a public hearing, just to walk through the structure for everyone, we'll hear a brief overview from Planner Adair, and then we'll open this up to the Murphys. If they would like to present or supplement, then we'll open up for public comment. Then we'll close public comment. We'll go to trustee and staff discussion with the Murphys, and then to the extent it seems prudent, we will then make a decision. So at this time, I hand the mic over to Planner Adair.
Thank you. This is a proposed residence in the Avalanche Hazard Overlay District, as well as the Slope Hazard Overlay District. The site is 3 lots at the western end of 14th Street at 14th and Bluff. We have the applicant present. The Planning Commission reviewed this application, and the Planning Director and the Planning Commission recommend that you grant conditional approval with the conditions of approval that are on the last page of your staff report. And if you have any questions, I can try to answer those, or the applicants. Also, this is a public hearing, so you should allow for any unexpected adjacent landowner or citizen comments.
Thank you very much. And I see that we have Ken Murphy joining us tonight. Ken, welcome.
Thank you.
Is there anything you would like to add or present to the trustees at this time?
No, I mean, I think we have a structural engineered foundation or house plans on the back of the house. There's no their windows are all kind of 6 feet and up. It's a concrete stem wall in the back. We just also, we did check for avalanche before we bought the lot in 2017, when we have a letter from the town planner at that time indicating that the lot was not an avalanche zone. We filed the permit. I think we met all those requirements, and we're hoping that the having the engineered plan will be sufficient from Silverton's perspective.
Great, thank you. So unless there's any other comments from Planner Adair, we'll now open this up for public comment. If you're joining us via Zoom, please click the raise hand button and we will promote you to panelist in order to speak. It doesn't look like we have any public comment at this time, so we'll go ahead and close the public comment period and move on to trustee and staff questions and discussion. So either member of the planning commission, would you like to supplement anything that's in the packet or anything that's been said so far?
Well, I suppose the only thing to note that's in the conditions of approval that we recommended that there be a structural engineer plan to the back. And for that, we're using PE Dean Bosworth. And with his reputation around town, the planning commission felt that that was sufficient in lieu of an avalanche expert.
And will that cover any avalanche and or rockfall hazard? It'll do both. That was in your the planning report, I feel like, but it was avalanches mostly, but is it the same for both hazards?
I think the
Engineering?
from what I understand, the majority of the hazard is rockfall.
Okay.
Potential for avalanches, but not often. So concrete stem wall in the back. You said the windows are going to be over 6 feet off the ground. So
Yeah.
The only windows on the back of the property are basically high transom windows at the very top of the lower floor, and the entire back of the lower floor has no doors, concrete stem wall all the way to the second floor.
I thought I remembered reading something about like an indemnification.
Yeah, I've signed an admit, and that's signed as well and notarized in the file, in the packet. Correct.
Trustee Brella?
I think the staff and the planning commission have definitely done their job, and we'd like to thank them for bringing us a complete packet. Everything looks great to me. Glad to see new people wanting to build in the town of Silverton. Thank you.
We're excited, actually, very excited.
And you're my neighbor, so nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. We'll be there a fair amount in the summers. Once I retire, we'll probably be there a bit more. But it's a single family residence just for us and our family. We're not planning on renting it out or anything. It'll just be our home.
Okay.
Well, unless there's any other discussion, would someone like to make a motion?
Ken.
Trustee Uyghur?
Oh, sorry.
I'll make a motion. The town board conditionally approves the proposed Murphy residence dual hazard district use subject to review application for lots 1 through 3, block 10, located at 14th M Bluff Streets with the conditions of approval presented in the staff report.
I'll second.
Thank you, Trustee Brella. Clerk, please roll call, please.
Trustee Brella?
Yes.
Trustee Harper?
Yes.
Trustee Ledger?
Yes.
Trustee Zimmerman?
Yes.
Trustee George?
Yes.
Mayor Person Barney?
Yes.
Mayor Berman?
Yes. Well, congratulations, Mr. Murphy, and welcome to Silverton as a house owner.
I'm excited. Thank you. And Lisa, thank you very much for your help. Very helpful in getting through this process. Made it pretty straightforward and rather efficient, at least on my end. I'm sure it was a lot of work for you. Thank you.
All right, I see that Clark Anderson is now here, so we're going to move back to presentations and proclamations, item 3B, as long as that is okay with everybody else. Yep. Welcome, Clark.
Hey, how are you guys?
Wonderful.
Good. Sorry if I messed up the time. Thanks for the time, and it's really great to be here in person with you guys. Should we just jump right in?
Let's
let's figure out the audio real quick and then we'll get started.
Trying to get sound as close to you.
Oh, stand over here?
Sure.
Yeah, I can do that.
And Lisa has the presentation and
Great.
put the slides up.
Great. There's only a couple. I know you guys have a lot on the docket tonight, so. Can you guys hear okay? Yeah. Just to introduce myself, I'm Clark Anderson with Community Builders. We've been working with you guys on visioning project that you're getting started, soon to have an actual official name. And I just wanted to come, and we're going to be down here both this week and next week. And so being in town, Anthony and I have talked and thought it would be really great to have a connection with you guys and provide a bit of an update on where we are. Oh, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Just as a reminder, so we're a nonprofit organization based out of Glenwood Springs. We work with communities around the Rocky Mountain West. They're trying to grapple with change and trying to find their path forward in it. But what it does matter to us is the idea that we're trying to help communities fix the problems they have today while also creating a future that works better. That's how we work, and that's what we do. And there's really two types of work that we do. One is more that type of work, assistance like what we're doing with you guys. And then we also do develop tools and research and information like that to help the communities that we can't work in person with. So just a little bit of background about the organization. I know some of you guys know us and some of you are still kind of getting to know each other. I feel it's always helpful to do that. So Lisa, if you want to bring us to the next slide. Thank you. So just to provide, when I last spoke with you guys, it was, I think, late last fall, and we were talking about whether this was a project you guys wanted to do or not. You all agreed, yes, let's go forward and do this, which we were really excited about. And we began to get to work on the effort that goes into sort of putting something like this together. And if you look at this sort of process overview, that's where we're at now. What I want to do quickly is just sort of provide a broader lens on where we are and what we're going to be doing with this work, and because we've made a lot of progress since we saw you guys at that point. We've designed a strategy, really a set of phasing for the project that you can kind of break down into two different parts. One of them is sort of beginning with where we are today as a community, trying to understand the sort of basic questions of, what people value most about living here, what their hopes and concerns are. We're in that space right now. It's present minded. And it's really these two key activities of groundwork, which is easy to overlook, but it's the important work that goes into sort of building up the systems and teams and all of that go into getting something like this off the ground and doing it well, designing the process and things like that. And that's where we've really been up until just recently. And now we're entering into stage 2 here, which is really the community assessment side of it. So far, we're still going to be in that space of trying to understand, where is the community today, right? And it's from that foundation of understanding what we care about, what matters, what's happening in the community, which I know you guys have a lot going on, that we can actually take a more future-oriented look at where are we going in the future. And that's where we'll get into these next set of activities of establishing goals and vision, and then actually developing the strategy and the action plans, getting pretty nitty gritty, getting pretty detailed into what we're actually going to do to advance that vision. Because what we don't really want to do is just give you guys, here's a high and lofty vision without some tools and understanding of how you can actually get there. And then finally, we think it's really important with work like this to do what we call stewardship. And stewardship is just the basic idea that projects like this really don't work out well if they just end. You really have to put some work into thinking about how are we going to implement this? How are we going to take advantage of the partnerships, the collaboration, the engagement, the work that we've done, and carry that forward so we can steward the vision and steward the work going forward. So those are kind of the key elements that we've designed around this work.
Like I said, right now, we're sort of transitioning from that initial groundwork phase into the community assessment work, and you're going to start to see some things happening as early as tomorrow where, we're sort of this is a pretty light trip this time. We just wanted to get in town and start doing some light COVID safe engagement. But we're looking forward to starting to build things up. And now let's go ahead to the next slide. So just a couple quick updates. There's more sort of things that have happened than this, but I think some of the most important progress we've made is just getting the project teams established. So that includes the project management team, which is really a group that's doing a lot of the sort of day-to-day, week-to-week lifting of this work and helping guide our team. The way that we work is we're not a consultant, right? So we don't come in and do the work for communities or come and do engagement with a community and then take it back to the lab and kind of filter it the way that we want. What we do is we work with the community to try to build capacity, strengthen the community's ability to do things. So a lot of the work that we're doing with that team, this really busy group of people, they're already very high capacity people. But we're also trying to begin building out some systems and ways that in the future, you guys will be able to do these things, just as commonplace the way you do processes. And so related to that, we also built out the task force. This is a larger group of members of the community, civic leaders, and their job it's different. And when we sometimes see this idea of a task force in a planning project like this, the way these are sometimes set up is a group of people that's supposed to represent the community. And they're really the ones that are given quite a lot of power to be able to sort of make decisions. And they're the ones that get to say, apples are red. And somebody says, no, apples are green too. And they said, no, I'm telling you they're red and we're going with red. And this group won't actually be doing that, because what we understood in talking to you guys is you want to hear from the whole community as much as we can. We want a very representative process to begin identifying the vision for where Silverton wants to be in the future and how do we get there. And so this group, this task force, is actually really working with us about how do we get out into the community as best as we can. So we've really worked hard to try to build out a group of people who have networks into the community, can, yes, bring in different perspectives, and can, yes, in that sense, provide a sense of representation within the community. But what we're not asking them to do is to be the voice of the community on their own. Instead, what we're asking them to do is help amplify the voice of the community, get more people involved. And we're going to try to give them a lot of tools and support in that, but we're really working together with that group to do that. They've had one first meeting and we're meeting with them again next week. So it's a really great group of people from what I've seen so far. I really liked the first meeting, looking forward to the next one. Just in the realm of sort of the community engagement part of the work, we built out an initial process design and engagement strategy. This is kind of a framework. It's not necessarily super technical and tactical in terms of what's happening on what date, but it outlines what we're trying to do in each stage of the project so that the teams we're working with understand that. We've begun, as I mentioned, to transition into doing some startup activities for phase 2. I think we'd all like to have gotten started sooner, but it's pretty hard, because a lot of this is stuff you want to be doing in person with the community as much as possible. Online engagement's hard anywhere, and it's particularly hard in a place like Silverton where not everybody has access to the internet and things like that. So if we were only doing online engagement and sort of, this winter when COVID was even more challenging than it is now, it would have been difficult. So we're hoping that as more and more people are vaccinated and we're able to do more in-person engagement, that we can open up some opportunities there. And so we're starting into that. And that's going to include sort of smaller workshops, one-on-one interviews, sort of focus group type sessions, and also some more sort of out in the community type installations, like community drop boxes and things like that. We can provide more detail on any of that you guys would like, but that stuff's getting going. We're trying to come up with a little bit of a plan because we know you guys get a little bit busy around the summer. And so we're trying to figure out how to make things work during the summer in a way that the community can do its business and the work that you guys have to do, but also the project can continue to sort of, at a minimum, sort of maintain. And if we have to do a pause on some of the engagement, we can do that, but we want to make a plan for that. We're about to name the project. We had our task force identify names for the project and then just vote on them. And I saw just coming in here, I got an email with the results, so I'm kind of excited. And then we're going to be in town parts of the next couple of weeks, just getting things going, starting to do some reconnaissance work for where we can do different things, and trying to begin having some small group conversations and things like that. So for now, I think that's where I'll stop unless you guys have some additional questions or want some additional detail. I know you've got a lot on the agenda tonight.
I'm just curious. Sorry.
Go for it.
This is awesome. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, totally. I love this project. This is really exciting. I think it's really healthy for our community. I'm just curious, like, how many people do you have on the community task force? Just like ballpark?
Yeah.
Is that like 5 or 20?
No. It's around 28.
All right, cool.
And we're probably going to be adding a couple more just based on sort of identifying a couple gaps. Any other questions? No problem if not. All right.
Thanks, Clark.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate the time.
Thank you.
I guess one last question. Is there anything that, so I know that in general, with the task force and the management team, I don't believe we have any elected officials involved in that. Are there things that elected officials can do to help support community builders and the process, or should we just continue to be
Involved.
Okay.
Sure. I think, and I would say that, I think we do have elected officials on the task force.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember, I can't remember who. Is anybody on the council on the task force?
It was my understanding that we were avoiding that.
Oh, okay, maybe we were. I might have missed that part. Go ahead.
No, that's fine, but there's going to be different activities going on, and definitely you should participate in your personal capacity. That way we didn't get into where we were having to formalize when meetings were, is why that was.
Yeah, that makes good sense.
And then the idea was when this will be the second meeting of the task force coming up, and then probably we should let all the elected officials know and have access to know who those individuals are so they can engage with them as well.
Yeah,
Suggestion would be.
And a couple of quick, thoughts on this. And because one of the approaches you guys decided to take is to, utilize this process as the sort of basis for the community master plan that you're doing. I think it's really important for us to identify opportunities for you guys to help weigh in and offer different ways to participate. We as an organization find that it is very important to have both the community, but also elected voices participating in, and we can talk more about sort of different ways to make sure that happens well. It is really important though.
Great.
Good deal. Thank you guys so much. I'm in town. We're going to be over at the Coffee Bear tomorrow. And trying to do some just small engagement activities. We've designed a Silverton Mad Libs, which is going to be hopefully a pretty fun way to get some engagement from people. We're going to be doing some really cool community drop boxes where people can fill out a little card and drop it in different businesses. We're going to work on a rollout for that over the next couple of weeks. And if anybody wants to come, either any of you guys or anyone on the community who happens to be watching and chat with our team and learn about the project and do some of these activities, come over to the Coffee Bear tomorrow morning. We'll be over there and just kind of hanging out and trying to meet people, talk to people.
What time frame is that?
We'll be there from 7:30 until I want to say around noon, and we'll probably take a little bit of a lunch break, and then we'll be there again in the afternoon as long as they'll let us come back. We haven't made any trouble, and hopefully. Cool.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, you guys.
Thanks, Clark.
All right, so back program, new business, item 5B, consideration to approve the final reading of ordinance 2021-04 and ordinance amending sections 11-270 of the Silverton Municipal Code to address developer reimbursement. And I will excuse myself as I have been doing so far.
Yes, I'm in the same boat.
Trustee Bearman, I believe that puts you in the seat.
Do I need to read this again?
You only have to read the first line. It's the second.
Okay. So it's ordinance number 2021-04, an ordinance amending section 11-2-70 of the Silverton Municipal Code to address developer reimbursement.
Is there any public comment? There being none,
There being none, we'll open it up to trustee discussion.
Now, I feel like we covered it in the first reading. It seems like it makes a lot of sense. Director Seitz was for it. The planning commission has been for it. I think I'm comfortable going ahead and making a motion to approve it. So I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 2021-04, an ordinance amending section 11-2-70 of the Silverton Municipal Code to address developer reimbursement.
Second.
Roll call, quick please.
Trustee Rowland,
Yes.
trustee Harper,
Accused.
trustee Wager,
Yes.
trustee Bearman,
Yes.
trustee George,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney, and Mayor Fleming were also recused.
Barney?
All right, the next item on our agenda is 5C, consideration of the letter of support for Southwest Cora. And I believe we have Director Branner who will present this.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to give everybody a quick update on what this is in case you're not aware of who and what Southwest Cora is. For the past few years, this group, which is the Southwest Colorado Outdoor Recreation Alliance, has been working to convene the outdoor recreation industry in our region with a goal of better understanding our collective challenges and opportunities, and then to communicate this information with the state's Office of Outdoor Recreation Industry. The state office was actually a catalyst for the formation of groups like this throughout the state. And the idea here is so that they can have boots on the ground and really understand what's going on in different parts of the state in regard to the needs of the outdoor recreation community. The leadership team includes myself as well as representatives of San Juan Mountain Association, Osprey Backpacks, Fort Lewis College, and Revelry Experience, which is a curator of outdoor industry events. And we have been working to convene members of this community from a 5-county region. So that includes Archuleta, La Plata, San Juan, Montezuma, and Dolores counties. In spring of 2019, the group organized the Coils X event in Cortez, which is a Colorado Outdoor Industry Leadership Summit, as well as some gatherings in Durango. We are actively involved in the Rocky Mountain Restoration Initiative, which you may be aware of. It's a forest health project along the Highway 160 corridor. We've been working on maintaining a database of outdoor rec businesses in the region and a newsletter for information sharing. And so we're looking at bringing together businesses, nonprofits, conservation interests, basically the full spectrum of anyone involved in the outdoor recreation industry in this 5-county area. COVID largely stalled the effort, but coming out of the pandemic, there is renewed effort going forward. And right now, why this is important is that there is going to be a new state conservation and recreation plan that is going to be underway. And Southwest Colorado needs to have a seat at the table as work begins on this. And Southwest Cora is poised to take that role and bring the voices from our region together. So the group is applying for a co-op grant for capacity building. And this is a new program offered through Colorado Parks and Wildlife and GOCO. And the ultimate goal of this will be to come up with a plan for Southwest Colorado, looking at our particular needs and be able to communicate that up the food chain to the state. So we are asking for letters of support from a variety of different municipalities in the region, also from the Southwest Colorado Council of Governments. And the group would really appreciate the support of the town of Silverton to make sure that San Juan County is represented in this effort.
Thank you very much. And what we're looking for tonight is direction from the board for me to sign this letter. Any comments or questions? Any objections?
No.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
And the next item we have, and thank you, Lisa. The next item we have is the proposed 2021 Town of Silverton fee schedule. Is this something that someone from staff would like to present, or how would you like to go over this item?
This is a fee schedule that's been worked on by staff. Is there any concerns about the fee schedule that we're talking about adopting? Or questions about the different parts?
I have a few.
Great, go ahead.
First one, it's down towards the end under parking fees, private driveway. So are we actually saying that there are individual signs? Are we talking about people on Main Street with a pan? It doesn't really give much. I know it's in the model traffic code, but where have we defined this previously?
Previously, this fee schedule is based on the last approved fee schedule that the board had done. And if we were not updating the fees, we left them the same. So that may be one that was previously approved that we did not look at.
Okay, well, it has Kelly's initials off to the side. So,
Very few of those come through.
okay. Yeah, because there are driveway pans that are used for business purposes. So that's why I'm asking.
So I'm sorry, I just was trying to turn my sheets. Which one are you referring to? Just
I know, I can't find it either.
It's on.
It says 49.
049.
49 in the packet, third item.
So you're talking about blocking private driveway.
Well, yeah, because it says blocking private drive.
Okay,
So that's why I was asking exactly what the definition of that is, because people have driveway pans on Main Street on Green.
I don't,
And a couple of them are used for business purposes, as long as they're not blocking the sidewalk. And then looks like this was an updated list.
I don't know if it was updated from the last fee schedule. I wasn't familiar with that. I can tell you that that hasn't come before me before.
Okay.
Or I'd be able to tell you what we do with that. It's not something that's.
And then another one is
Just to close that out, what's
crosswalk.
so what is a driveway pan?
A driveway pan is where you have.
The depth. And so the concern is that it's unclear if a business using their own driveway pan or with permission then gets a ticket by.
Next to the Colin Peterman's new coal bank is the perfect example. People pull up and park there, even though there's a driveway pan that accesses Tommy Whiff's property. So are we saying that that is actually, that's why I'm asking.
Okay.
That needs to be clarified. If something like this is here and it's enforceable, it's got to be, what are we defining it as?
Also, do they have to be marked?
Exactly.
Because I have a private driveway, I guess.
Mhm.
I don't ever use it, but it's not marked. So, and people park there all the time. I don't care, but I guess, yeah, good. I don't know.
Yeah. because a lot of these fees have not come before the board in our previous, we only worked on fees at Kendall Mountain. So these, a lot of these are very different.
So on that item, I think the direction to the town would be to look into whether or not we need to specifically indicate driveway pans that are or are not allowed to be parked in front of.
Or they have to be delineated, like it's not delineated in front of Tommy's pan. People park there just like it's a regular parking space.
My only suggestion would be just because is that this is part of the model traffic code. That you have staff go back and look at what that definition is and that we refrain from doing anything on that matter if it comes before the court until you all know if you want to have that further defined.
Okay, yeah, because a couple of the other ones I had in here were also about parked in a crosswalk.
So before we move on, I think it sounds more like a signage and identification issue than like a code issue. Like if there's sections of Green Street or Blair Street that should be designated as no parking because there's a driveway and it's not entirely obvious, or where they are going to allow parking even though there is a driveway, that just seems like a signage issue.
Yeah, I don't want to weigh in too much right now. I mean, I think everybody's aware that where there's blue paint, that doesn't have any meaning unless there's a sign. Right? So the parking issue of signs, yeah.
Well, because this came up last year, parked in a crosswalk, but there isn't an actual delineated crosswalk.
In some places there is.
Well, yeah, some places there are, but where this person received a ticket, there wasn't a delineated crosswalk. So there's just some of these things that have, granted, the fees should be there, but what do we do when you have to fight it because there's nothing delineated, where there's no signage?
Usually people bring me a picture, they snap it and bring it to court.
And the sheriff takes pictures of it also. You guys have to take it.
Yeah, and usually these types of things are pretty, well, we usually have a picture on these type of things. I mean, that's how it works through the process usually.
And then there's another one in there, but that needs to be held in private discussion with staff.
Okay. May I suggest that if there's no other issues on the fee schedule, that we adopt it with those
Well, then I'm going to bring it up now.
well, refraining from the 3 that need to be discussed or 4, and then we can add those on. We can look at those at a meeting to adopt those as well.
Well, one of these is contradictory to an ordinance that was passed.
Okay.
And so if we're going to do that, we need to eliminate or put up for discussion at a later date the promotional association certification fees and the common consumption area fees.
I guess the question would be, should we have a separate meeting or session to go over the fee schedule at a later time, or?
Would it be possible?
We need to do it in executive session. Is that?
No,
Or-
no, it's just something that I can,
Oh.
because so these are in direct conflict with what the actual ordinance says.
Okay.
So.
Which one is this?
Page 46.
46.
Right above shaded line, facility rentals.
And there are asterisks in there saying that you have to actually look at the liquor license authority. But there's also an ordinance that is in place that contradicts part of that.
So those are 2. Are there additional ones that have issues?
Other than the stuff I saw about parking, it's never been this in-depth when it's come before the board previously.
Okay, so do we want to have those? I think is there 6 now that we want to review?
I only saw 4 so far.
Well, there's 3 that have my initials by them. Asking me to look at those.
Mhm.
So I guess the question would be, what would you recommend we do? Would you like us to approve this minus those items, or would you like us to table this for further review? And
I would like to, I mean, my suggestion, would you approve with those, without those items at this time, and that we revisit those and later, at a meeting later, after the staff can get more feedback. If we have a conflicting ordinance, as Trustee Barella, I think is bringing to their attention, is that right? Would that be for all those 3?
2.
Okay, which ones are you saying or conflict with the ordinance?
The promotional association and the common
Consumption. Okay. So let's. Do those, and then on the parking.
Yeah, just clarification on the parking, just because we don't want to have any confusion for the sheriff's department who will be issuing these tickets.
Okay.
Or the potential other item on the list, to make sure that's been an issue before.
and so that was the parked and crosswalk, as well as
Private drive.
blocking private drive.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah, because the rest of them are very clearly defined. Failure to, the vehicle, parking in the red for the snow route. Restricted or prohibited zones already have signs. Too close to a fire hydrant has a red delineated line. So these were just the few that I felt were a little bit in the gray area. Not that they probably come up a lot, but they still need to be completely clarified.
so do I hear a motion to approve the fee schedule subject to continued review of these 5 items that have been identified by Trustee Barella? Or excluding those 5?
Mhm.
Was that a so moved?
Yes,
Okay, cool.
sorry.
Trustee Harper moved. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. Trustee George. Clerk Freeze, roll call, please.
Trustee Barella?
Yes.
Trustee Harper?
Yes.
Trustee Biger?
Yes.
Trustee Dearmont?
Yes.
Trustee George?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney?
Yes.
Mayor Herman?
Yes. Clerk Freeze, did you need any clarification on what that motion was? I kind of fumbled the end.
I didn't hear the motion. I apologize.
That was a motion to approve the fee schedule excluding the 5 items identified by Trustee Barella, which will be revisited and presented back to us at a later date. So the next item on the agenda is consideration to approve the special event application for I Am Music. Trustee Barella?
I obviously know why they chose Columbine Park because of the stage. But with the amount of attendees, is that really feasible in that small of a space? That's based on if or not we move into different COVID restrictions on the 15th or 16th.
I can speak to that. We also have Alyssa from I Am Music here. So the group is looking to use a combination of Columbine Park and Blair Street. And Alyssa can speak a little bit more to where exactly the street will be blocked off. But the idea is to expand the area available by incorporating the street. And as it currently stands in level green, outdoor unseated events do not have a capacity restriction. I think in the next week or so, we will. I'm sorry, Trustee Barella, can you repeat that?
Isn't it 500 currently?
For unseated events, my understanding is there is no restriction. And I know that our local public health office is going to be releasing some new information for us coming up. As of right now, my understanding is that what I Am Music is proposing actually falls within our restrictions, and they've indicated that they're, of course, willing to modify their plan based on whatever the current COVID restriction is at the moment. And we'll be communicating with the Office of Emergency Management about that. So just like every other event that we are having this summer, it will be subject to whatever regulations are in place at the time. And I believe the organizers are aware of that.
And just so everyone knows, hi, I'm Alyssa Wolf. I'm with the I Am Music Institute Executive Director, and happy to give you guys some information on I Am Music if that's going to be helpful and explain a little bit more about the event. But we're basically just a nonprofit music school in Durango, and we've been hosting these music festivals and series for 8 years now, and we wanted to expand to Silverton. And we're going to do it if all is approved. We'd like to do this festival in partnership with KSJC Community Radio. And the event is going to serve as a fundraiser, but it's also going to support local and regional musicians. And then the plan is to have a portion of the funds go back to support the Silverton School District as well. So while it's stimulating the local economy, we're hoping to also stimulate the school and musicians who have been out of work now for over a year.
Yeah, I think it sounds like a great idea. I did have a question. Are you going to have, I read you were going to have a second stage set up on Blair Street? Are you guys going to, is there, and this might just be a logistics question for you, but are there going to be two different musicians playing at the same time? Is that the idea?
My understanding, I don't know if Lisa, did Jesse talk to you about that?
I believe the plan is, and I don't know if this is set in stone, but my understanding of it was to utilize the stage in Columbine Park during the day and then nighttime hours. So the daytime concerts would be free, and then the nighttime concerts would be ticketed, and that would be what would take place on the larger stage. And again, I don't know, given the situation, this may be somewhat fluid. I do also want to draw the trustees' attention to the fact that we're talking about a full street closure for 2 days in order to accommodate that second stage. It's a mobile stage that they haul in on a trailer and set up. And I think it's a lot of effort to set up and break down daily. So they are looking for a full street closure there. And that's just something for you all to be aware of in considering approval of this application.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I have in our notes that we're going to block off Empire Street from East 12th to East 13th. And that's what my notes say. I'm not as familiar with Silverton as all of you, but hopefully that makes a better picture in your head.
Mayor Potembardi.
Okay, this does sound like a really exciting idea, and I like the idea of supporting musicians and the arts here. And I think the Blair Street area is a great spot for it. I'm wondering if you've had or if it's appropriate to, or in what order would you connect with just the Blair Street businesses? It sounds like, if there are 300 to 500 people visiting Blair Street, that seems like a really good thing for them, but also I'm not sure where in the process it makes sense to connect with them. And then my other question is, and I guess it's maybe more for you, Lisa, about lodging all of the people, or is there a camping permit in conjunction with this, or what other supportive elements would make sense to put into place ahead of time?
So I can't speak to the camping issue. That has not been something that we've discussed. In regard to connecting with the business owners and property owners on Blair Street or Empire on that stretch. I did recommend that the organizers reach out to them and make contact. I don't know what efforts have been made in that regard. I will say that's one of the shortcomings of our current closure of public right-of-way application is it doesn't require that. And I know other communities actually ask if there's a full street closure that a certain percentage of the property owners that will be directly affected weigh in on that. And we don't have that stipulation in place, but maybe Alyssa can clarify for us whether property owners have been contacted and what the feedback was.
Yeah, I haven't personally reached out to any of them. It's possible my colleague Jesse, the founder of I Am Music, may have. I'll make a note right now to ask him and make sure we do that if that hasn't been done. I think it's really important that the business owners are aware this is going to happen and are in agreement with it. We are going to hopefully bring them some business. And as far as the camping issue, all of the festivals we've ever hosted in Durango, we've never had camping. They've never been camping festivals because they're typically just held on one day. This is the first time we've done sort of a 2-day festival. So, you know, I think for some of our musicians, we're probably going to put them into hotel rooms and maybe some of our staff. But I think for people attending the event, you know, we encourage them to go camp in the wilderness or book a hotel room. But I don't think it's probably wise for us to undertake a full camping situation like you might see at like a Telluride Bluegrass or a Pagosa. I think that would require a lot more on the city. I think feel free to weigh in, but I think we should probably just encourage people to go camp in the woods if they want to stay.
Trustee Barella.
So I am excited to see this, but some of what you're actually suggesting, if these reservations weren't made prior, just because of the time frame, there might not be anything available. And with the limited capacity out at South Mineral, whether or not it'll even be open this year, it's pushing everybody who would have camped there into different locations, either not necessarily north of us, but more directly around town. So that might be a burden on the ability to have camping available unless the town of Silverton could somehow figure out how to utilize the area directly behind Kendall in reference to these artists and or volunteers, because I don't think that you're going to find much available, ma'am.
Okay, that's really, really good feedback. I mean, and Lisa, we haven't discussed this. This didn't come up with you and this hasn't come up between me and Jesse. I think it's something we need to absolutely address.
Thanks, Trustee Barella, for bringing that to their attention.
So a couple other questions. Is it proposed, I see that the event times are 5 to 10 on Friday and 2 to 10 on Saturday. Is it proposed that music goes right until 10, or is the idea to kind of shut the music down at 9:30 so that you've got 30 minutes to try and usher people out and do a trash cleanup? Or can you walk me through like what the expectation is for once it's cleared out in terms of timing?
Yes, for most of our festivals, the end time just means that's when the noise stops. So the performers will probably go till 10 o'clock. And then, you know, the first night, if we're not tearing down the stage, there'll probably be about 30 minutes of cleanup. And then the second night, I anticipate there would be at least 1 to 2 hours, probably 2 hours to get that stage torn down, to clean up the trash and anything else that needs to be done. So I would guess by midnight, we would be done.
Am I correct that we have a 10 p.m. noise ordinance in Silverton?
7. That's technically 7 p.m.
I think that's for motorized, isn't it? And then we have a 10 p.m.
7 p.m.
Okay.
So all events, as long as they're outdoor, the leeway has been given to 10 p.m. So the noise ordinance.
That's the time frame that we've worked with for Summer Sounds, is 10 p.m. is quiet time in the park. And there may be some quiet cleanup activity happening, but amplified sound is done by 10 p.m.
Except for Junior Brown, I think everybody's pretty much complied.
So I guess I might recommend maybe just a slightly earlier than 10 p.m. end time. You know, I know how it goes with encores and whatnot. And so it may be better to target a slightly earlier cutoff time to meet the town's, I guess, informal noise ordinance of
I
10
think
p.m.
that's a fair ask. And I know just from, I am a professional musician, and if you tell us to end at 10, someone inevitably is gonna yell encore and it's gonna go on. So maybe what I'll suggest to Jesse is that we end the music at even 9:30 to account for 15 extra minutes of possible playtime, and then we're really done before 10. So I'll suggest that to Jesse.
Thank you. And then I guess another couple of questions I have are, in terms of like excess trash and things, would there be a plan for working with Brew Waste to have extra dumpsters on site so that we're not just overfilling the town or the municipal trash that's in that area?
Yeah, that's a great question. I had a call with Chris over at Brew Waste, and they're planning on placing at least 3 bins, I think 3-yard bins on the grounds. And then I asked him if he could help assist with recycling, and he hasn't gotten back to me on that yet. If he can't assist with recycling, our plan is to fill up a couple trucks and have our volunteers bring it to the transfer station at the end of the event. So the trash is absolutely taken care of, and I'm still working on recycling.
Gotcha. And I just had 2 more. Go ahead.
Go for it.
Okay, 2 more. If we have a business or property owner on the blocked off area that's like vehemently opposed to this, do you have any suggestions on how we could best address their desire to not have this so that we don't have a major conflict with a resident or property owner?
That's a great question. I mean, if there's any resident or property owner that is affected by the blocked off streets and they're opposed to this, we will work with them. I have no interest in upsetting local residents or businesses. It's not what I Am Music is about. We want to work with everyone.
I'm gonna hold on my last one. So Trustee Harper and then Trustee Barella.
Restroom plan.
Yeah. What do we have going for that? I'm trying to think. I know for our Durango festivals, we use Bob's John's. I don't know if Jesse's arranged that. Do you guys have a local portable restroom business you use? Or I could call in Bob's John's from Bayfield. They've been working with us for years.
So I know that we go ahead, either Nathan or Lisa.
I was going to say there isn't one locally. Bob's John's has serviced many of the events here in Silverton. It might be wise, given the volume of people that you're expecting. There are restrooms in Columbine Park, but they get taxed pretty heavily with a crowd of this size. So it may be a good idea to plan on some additional porta potties.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and make that phone call tomorrow.
And I think Nathan had a add on to that.
I have been informed by the Silverton Film Office and other groups in town that Bob's John's is no longer supposed to be servicing Silverton. I do have the contact for a company in Durango in Montrose that is willing to come down here and service all of our events. I will spread that out to you, Lisa, and you, Alyssa.
Wonderful, thank you.
It's jurisdiction. Trustee Barella.
So what I don't see in the drawing or in the description is whether or not this is going to be on the inside of the street, leaving the sidewalks open for pedestrian foot traffic to get to all of the businesses. So the barricading would be done into the inside. Is this, because it actually, I can't quite tell from the picture. I mean, I get where everything wants to go. So
I can speak to that, Trustee Barella, Alyssa, unless you have more information than I do, but let me start and you can correct me if you know more. I did ask that question when I saw the map, and my understanding is that the sidewalks on the laundromat side of the street will not be blocked, but the sidewalks on the Columbine Park side of the street will be enclosed in that area. And I don't know if there needs to be modifications made in order to allow access to some of those businesses, but that's my understanding of what's being proposed right now.
That's my understanding as well, is exactly what you said.
I can see one large issue with the business owner. So it's been the same business owner. So that needs to be addressed immediately. And Lisa knows who I'm talking about. That's why
Yes,
she-
Alyssa, I can
Yes.
get with you on details on that.
Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you. Okay.
But if it's, I'm sorry, and you said it was ticketed music after what time? Like you needed a ticket after, it was free during the day or, I'm sorry. And then you needed to buy a ticket after 5 or?
I'm
I'm
not
not-
sure what the time breakout is, but I do
Okay.
know it's intended to be free music during the day and then ticketed at night.
Well, and I would hope that if it's free during the day, then the business owners would embrace it being enclosed and then maybe hopefully, maybe they're not open in the evening for those hours usually. And so just being open, even though it's barricaded, they'll still get business. I don't know. I'm just thinking through it. I had a question about the food cart area. Do you know how many food carts he'll be bringing in? And is it going to be so much that we're not going to be supporting the local restaurants that are in the area?
As far as I know, usually at these festivals, we only bring in 1, maybe 2.
Okay.
Usually like a smoothie cart or something. It's definitely not going to be enough food. People are going to need to go get food.
Awesome. Great.
Yeah.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney?
And then also I'm wondering, how do people find out about this festival and what does the marketing look like and how have you coordinated that with Lisa?
Yeah, I mean, for all of our music festivals, we do sponsored social media campaigns through the school. And then we do posters in town, physical posters as well. And we've got a really strong reputation at I Am Music for our events. So we're going to be able to pull a lot of people once we announce this. It's going to be, and we're also, we're going to be bringing in a couple very recognizable artists. So it shouldn't be too hard once we announce it.
Yeah, cool.
And then
Great.
Lisa, we can coordinate further on the kind of bringing the word to Silverton.
Lisa, have the other departments signed off on this yet?
So far, I've heard from Public Works and the Sheriff's Office, and they have both signed off. OEM, I think, is going to wait until we get closer to the event to give a green light, as they have been doing. And I have not heard back from Kimmett yet, but I will follow up with him and we'll make sure that we get all of the necessary approvals before this happens.
Thank you.
Alyssa, would it be sufficient to give tentative approval subject to confirming with the property owners affected and working through a couple of the questions like the availability of porta potties and other things that the trustees asked tonight, rather than doing a formal approval tonight?
Yes, and that, to me, that is very understandable and realistic. And I would like to get some of these questions answered too, especially feeling comfortable with all the business owners. I don't want to move forward with this until that's settled. So yeah, tentative approval would be wonderful. And then hopefully we can get all of this addressed this week.
I have one final question. If it became such an issue for business owners that they didn't want, like it became too contentious to have it on Blair, would you consider having it in Memorial Park or at the Kendall Mountain area? And this is just if the worst case scenario?
I think we would, assuming that with the layout and there's enough space. And we've hosted the I Am Music Festival at a lot of different, in Durango, we've done it at Buckley Park. We've done it at the Nugget up at Purgatory. We're doing it in Pagosa. We can adapt if we need to. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I really like the idea of having it in town and then everybody's downtown and going into all the businesses. But if for some reason it became an impossibility, then it might be good to just have a backup plan.
Yeah, we're definitely open to that.
Yeah, and at the time that this application came in, I believe that Kendall had been reserved for a wedding, but due to COVID, we've been seeing some continued cancellations. So I think my initial conversations were discouraging them from looking at Kendall, and now that may be a possibility. I think our calendar is clear for Kendall, and Memorial Park is typically open. I mean, aside from Iron Horse Weekend and the Aravaipa running events, and this year we do have some activity over there with the Hard Rock 100. There's not a lot of activity happening in Memorial Park, so that's another good option.
I agree.
I'd like to express my support. I think there's a few questions to answer, that we need to get before we could give a formal approval of the event application, but I love the idea and I'm glad that people are working towards something like this. So I have my thumbs up, subject to the concerns raised.
Yeah, absolutely. Really excited about this.
Great. We are too. We are really very excited.
Great. Any objections?
No.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for having this discussion with us tonight and best of luck. And we look forward to working with you and Lisa and everyone else involved to answer these questions.
Great. Yeah. And thank you guys for taking the time to discuss it with us as well.
Thanks, Alyssa.
All right. So the next item on our agenda is item 5D, consideration to approve $5,000 to finish the mezzanine in the firehouse. Clerk Freeze?
No, there's.
Did I just skip one?
Yes.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Consideration to approve the special event application for Silverton Creative District. This is item 5F. Apologies.
And we do have Carol Wilkins here, who's the chair of the Silverton Creative District, to answer any questions the trustees may have. But I believe this is pretty much a repeat of what the group did last year. It's not really a special event per se in the same respect as many of the other events that you all consider. They are simply looking to promote some of our galleries and maker spaces in the downtown area by allowing those businesses to have street side vending, so tables on the sidewalk, and just marketing the community for First Fridays. Carol, you can elaborate more if you like.
That's absolutely correct, Lisa. It's not really a special event. It's the same thing that we did last year with the restrictions in place, of course. But really, we just want to be able to, it's a extenuation of business as usual, but allowing us to have tables on the sidewalks for during 4 to 7 on the first Fridays for the rest of the year.
Great. I think this is excellent.
Yeah, I'd give it the thumbs up too. I don't have anything else to add to that. Yeah.
Awesome. I think since we're familiar with this, we're all very excited about it and appreciate you putting this on and the entire team putting this together every year. And thank you for joining us tonight. Any questions for Carol?
No, this seemed pretty straightforward.
Trustee
Well,
Burrell?
thank you very much, and we're really looking forward to doing this again this summer.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the notice of intent to conduct a special event or civic function within the incorporated town limits for the Silverton Creative District.
I'll support. I'll second.
Thank you. Clerk Freeze, roll call, please.
Trustee Burrow?
Yes.
Trustee Harper?
Absolutely, yes.
Trustee Wager?
Yes.
Trustee Burrow?
Yes.
Trustee George?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor Cronin?
Yes. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks, Carol.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, our next item is new business 5G, consideration to approve $5,000 to finish the mezzanine of the firehouse.
The chief is out of town right now. He asked me just to present this. He has a family matter. And so I think a couple of trustees have been over there. They've worked really hard on the mezzanine. The fire department has put a lot of labor and spent more on materials and been able to save by their labor on the materials. It's been a pretty impressive job they've done over there. And actually, we talked this last week about we need to have set a meeting for us to, or a field trip, if you will, for us to go and look at some things around and the mezzanine and the firehouse being one of them. But they needed about $10,000. They requested $10,000, $5,000 from the county and asked $5,000 from the town. And based upon all the work they put in, I think it would be a good investment for us to do. They're looking for, I think, maybe some furniture and some other stuff over there as well. But yes, Trustee Burrell.
So Jim Harper and I accompanied the county commissioners when they did a tour of it. And it was the building cost. That was the only thing that made this go over budget, because it was originally spec'd out at, I think, $26,000 for the wooden materials, and it came in at around 70 because of the cost at today's building prices. So that's the necessity for the ask between the town and the county. And that's what we were informed of that day when we were asked to come by and see as well, because we knew it would come up on the agenda here. So they have done an amazing job, and I think a field trip for all of our town facilities, which has not been done yet. That's normally what we do right after we get on the board, just go tour everything. And because of COVID, it hasn't happened. So I think it's a really good idea to do all of this.
Okay. I'll try to put something together. I'll follow up with you on that. Just to make sure we get all the ones that you usually go on.
Yeah, and I'd like to be in step with the county, and they approved it as well on their end, and I'd like to do the same over here.
Is this a 50-50 split with the county?
So, yeah, they just asked, even though they had a large overrun, they were able to cover it. They've asked for $10,000, so $5,000 from each.
And a lot of the labor was volunteer.
Right.
Given back to the town.
Great.
Great, yeah, let's support it. What do we do? Make a motion? I'll make a motion to support the, oh no, it's not on the top here. This it's expense, the $5,000 expense to go towards the fire department mezzanine building project.
I'll second.
Thank you. Trustee Harper seconded. Clerk Freeze, roll call, please.
Trustee Bell?
Yes.
Trustee Harper?
Yes.
Trustee Lager?
Yes.
Trustee Beermont?
Yes.
Trustee George?
Yes.
Mayor Lombardi?
Yes.
Mayor Furman?
Yes. Wonderful. Our next item is new business 5H, consideration to put a gate at Monarch Road per BLM.
Sure. So Melissa Snines is on here with the BLM, and I think Lisa Merrill is as well. Just to give an idea of where that is. Go up Kendall. If you turn back to your left, you can go up to I think it's the Mighty Monarch actually, but and there's some waste rock there and they're wanting just to close that road off. I think people think that that's a through road, and I'll let Melissa go ahead and present. Can you hear okay, Melissa?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you guys hear me okay?
We can, thank you.
Great, awesome. So I just have a few slides to just to really show you what we're talking about. But as you all know, the BLM is working towards conveying some property to the town of Silverton in the Kendall Mountain RMPP lease area. So we're talking about the Mighty Monarch is located on the RMPP lease. And what we're looking to do is get some, small cleanup type work done this summer. And part of that effort, we would like to install a gate that will keep people from camping on and driving on a small abandoned mine waste pile. So you can see the Mighty Monarch area right in here sits at the bottom of the rabbit ear slide path, and it feeds into the meadows here, these ponds here. And we're proposing to put the gate kind of right at the BLM boundary to block access into the Mighty Monarch area. And I have a few more slides that show this a little bit more clearly. So here you can see the gate location at that property boundary from just a different perspective. And then this map is your assessor map, and it shows the full length of the road, and that star location is where we are proposing to put the gate. Let's see. And so the Mighty Monarch complex consists of a draining mine adit, a large mine waste pile, and then there are also a couple of collapsed adit, and then another smaller adit that was closed by the DRMS in the 90s. So there's a lot going on up there. And we were thinking that a gate would be a great way to address any kind of, hazards associated with people camping in an area that has like higher concentrations of lead and arsenic. And then we were also hoping it would mitigate any concerns with, people near that draining adit. So coming from the AML Abandoned Mineland Program, that's our perspective. But we also know that the area has been, a nuisance area for illegal dumping, and then extended camping has also been a problem in that area with our recreation folks and our law enforcement. So those are BLM issues, and we know that one day, hopefully soon, this will all be under Town of Silverton management and ownership. So just an example of what a standard access gate design would be. And then, we will let you guys, we'd even let you pick whatever shade of brown you desire for the gate. So this is a picture of the Mighty Monarch draining adit right here, and you can see the water coming through. This is a pretty recent picture taken by Lisa. And then just a couple more pictures. This is a close-up of the adit. I think right behind here is a pile of rocks in this area. And then this is the kind of a little pond below it. So any questions for us? That's Lisa being.
I guess the only question I have is where the gate is going. If people drive up, since it's not at the start of that road, if people drive up there, is there going to be a place for them to be able to turn around? Or are they going to get, have to back down and cause an accident, or I don't know.
That is a really good question.
Melissa, would you like me to speak to that?
Please, Lisa, yes.
Yeah. Myself and Megan Mast, the BLM recreation planner that's moving here shortly, we went up there and kind of considered those kind of questions as well, Tyler. Because I don't know if you noticed back in one of those other slides, if we put the gate near the road, it's vulnerable to the slide. So we're trying to get it as far back out of that slide path as we can, but still have it close enough to the road that you might be able to see it when you just go up a little ways. One of the things Megan and I talked about is maybe we could put a sign down there, like a carcinite that is flexible, and if a slide takes it out, or something that's cheap, easy to replace. But that was our best idea, was to address that with signage down right at the road.
Sure, and that answers my second question, which is why wasn't the gate down at the road, but that makes perfect sense. So thank you.
Yep.
Any other trustee questions or comments?
Nope, you tagged what I was gonna ask, a turnaround.
This sounds like
There's also a camp area right there. Just a little ways up, right in the middle of the slide path. And also, so putting that gate back just a little ways still leaves access to that nice camping area right there at the bottom of the avalanche.
Great.
Let's pick out our brown. Excited.
Would a trustee like to make a motion to approve that the BLM put this gate at Monarch Road?
Yes, I'll make them so moved.
Thank you, trustee George. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Jordan did.
All right, trustee Bierma will get this one as a second. Thank you. Clerk Freeze, roll call, please.
Trustee Barella.
Yes.
Trustee Harper.
Yes.
Trustee Wager.
Yes.
Trustee Bierman.
Yes.
Trustee George.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney.
Yes.
Mayor Furman.
Yes. Well, Melissa, Lisa, thank you very much for joining us tonight and explaining this and for handling this project.
Thank you.
All right, thanks for having us.
Thank you very much.
Our next item on our agenda is new business 5I, consideration to file an extension for the town's audit.
John Ryder and I have been working on getting this audit together. Last few weeks he hasn't been in to help me with it. Looking to get an extension for the auditor to come in, and I'm not exactly sure what they need to do before the audit, but just make sure we have enough time to get it done.
Is there any downside to requesting an extension?
They've got, it past years that Silverton has asked for an audit, and it's been,
I think it's normal for us to ask for an extension.
It's very normal.
Yeah.
And will 60 days be long enough to? Great, yeah.
So do I hear a motion to approve the request to file an extension for a 60-day extension for the town's audit?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the request for extension of time to file the audit.
Thank you, trustee George.
I'll second.
Thank you, trustee Harper. Clerk, please roll call, please.
Trustee Barella.
Yes.
Trustee Harper.
Yes.
Trustee Wager.
Yes.
Trustee Bierman.
Yes.
Trustee George.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney.
Yes.
Mayor Furman.
Yes. Our next item is new business 5J, consideration to apply $150,000 from the Mullis Fund for the grant match for Columbine Park, which we previously approved. Simply the allocation of money, but not from where.
Yeah. I don't remember the exact number in the Mullis Fund. I don't have that in front of me. I thought I had it in my packet. I think it's
In our packets.
Yeah, up in the,
Is it on there?
if you want to continue.
So I think it's around $238,000. It's allocated in the Mullis Fund right now. We're anticipating, based on the financial committee, we talked to Director Bove, we anticipate we're going to have another 130,000 coming in this year profit. And so we approved the $150,000 for the Columbine Park. We need to identify where we want to transfer that money out of. The money's already been allocated. And as far as the board approving it, the question is, where do we transfer that money from?
It was 258,805.
Thank you. I said 238, 258. Thank you.
Better.
I just had one question.
Yeah.
Based on our cancellation policy at Mullis, do we know how much of that 258 is earned versus subject to possible cancellations and refunds, so that we know that we have sufficient dollars to cover refunds should we need to give them if there were to be a round 2 pandemic and everything closed again?
That 258 is already allocated in the fund.
Okay.
No, that's not relying on
That's not incoming deposits.
No.
To cancellation.
No.
Okay.
I say there's another 130,000 we're anticipating coming in. That's on top of the 258 that we have. The Mullis Fund could be used to, I think the philosophy of the Mullis Fund is that that's part of the park system and it can be used for parks, whether it be the deck at Kendall or Columbine or. So there's not a lot of concern about that money being available.
Thank you.
It is available.
And the COVID thing.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And so I talked to Willie today. Thank you, Trustee Brella. There also, there'll be approximately $145,000 coming in from COVID tax relief, meaning that our municipality will receive approximately $140,000. I'm anticipating coming in the next 4 weeks. We could use that because in a water and sewer extension and health, that could be moved over, or that could just be moved into water and sewer matters that we have, but there'll be more funds coming in. Just to be clear, the 150 plus the 258, I think is the correct number. Thanks, Tyler. So there's still going to be 158,000 that we can use in our parks. There'll be 140 coming in for the tax and relief from COVID, which was just brought to my attention again today. And yeah. And we anticipate we're going to have another 130,000 profit this year in the parks.
I'm very comfortable with this idea.
Yeah, what we're asking really is we already knew that we had funds. We're asking for, at least right now, for us to know that we have 150,000 out of that 258,000 that's the money that we're using when we commit the funds in the grant that we're asking for this week.
Yeah, okay.
That's due at the end of the week.
That way we can secure that grant money. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's all due at the end of the week.
Yeah.
The grant is not the money, the grant application.
Any concerns or objections?
No, I'm excited for this.
Yeah.
That is great.
I don't know that we need a vote on this because it's already been approved that we're going to use 100. It's just direction that everybody's comfortable that that's where we're taking the funds from. And if you decide later, or if the money's spent later, we can change it. We just need to know right now where that's coming from.
It sounds like you have unanimous direction and support.
Yeah.
Great. The next item on our agenda is.
Did you have a question?
No.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Is item new business 5K. Consideration to approve $4,000 for street washing by the Silverton Volunteer Fire Department.
Yeah, so historically, we have from time to time, but historically the fire department would wash down the streets. And before the Iron Horse or, and at this time of year, they have large hoses, lots of pressure. And that's not to say that the Public Works doesn't do a good job, but it's just they have the equipment. And so talked to Chief about doing the Memorial Park down to the visitor center. And those funds could also be used for furniture and some equipment they need. And the Director Sites was open to it. There's other things that we have them on right now, and the chief is open to it and thought that it'd be a good idea. And that would be $4,000. That would be for them to do the streets and they can use for equipment. Yes.
How many times will they clean the streets, or with what frequency?
They clean the streets in a deep clean once at the beginning of the year.
Oh, so the $4,000 for a single clean.
Yes, they go from the top to the bottom. Trust.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
That was my question. Trustee Brella.
So I was in communication with Chief Archuleta today, and I had asked start time and end time, because that is also the day that is proposed. It's also the first day of training. So Mr. Archuleta said it would start at 6 a.m.
Oh, goodness.
and they would be done as always before the train gets in.
And is that the number that we historically pay them as well? Is
It's
there?
gone up from year to year. I think
Yeah.
last time we had talked about it, it was like $3,800.
Yeah, but it's not, it hasn't gone up drastically. It hasn't.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all.
And you said something about furniture and equipment?
Well, they can use those funds that the volunteers come out, they spray everything down and then they're able to, work with the equipment and then they can use those funds for fire department activities.
Is there a reason we would restrict their use of, like, if they charge us $4,000, once it's theirs, right?
No, we're not going to follow that. I'm just telling you, that's the kind of things they're always filling in. I don't think we should restrict how they use it.
And in addition to this cleaning, will Public Works still periodically clean the dust?
If it's necessary to clean, they'll be out there cleaning and they have in the past. It's a pretty, the hoses are pretty, it's a nice, deep clean with the trucks. And that's not a critique of our.
Oh, it's the historical deep clean that they do on Green.
That it is.
I don't have a concern with this. My questions are more about, this is a very, we have one paved road. There's a lot of dirt and dust. It seems like we should be talking about like a larger scale, like what's our maintenance plan for Green Street to ensure that the sidewalks and streets are cleaned periodically throughout the summer, in addition to the deep clean at the beginning of the year. And that we see the total cost for that.
I can work with staff on getting that for you. I don't have that for you right now. And I think a lot of times what happens is, Public Works addresses the issue at the time. So maybe one summer, if we have, we've had summers before where we've had it rain in the county 100 days in a row, and then we are pretty flexible, but I'll talk to staff about that issue.
Cool. Trustee Brella?
Well, and as a business owner, I've always taken it upon myself to sweep and clean out the gutter and pick up the garbage as I see fit. So that's something that any community member can do, and or business owner.
Any concerns, comments, continued discussion, or do I hear a motion to approve this item?
Sure. I'll make a motion to approve the $4,000 for the annual street cleaning by the volunteer fire department.
Second?
Thank you. Clerk Freeze, roll call, please.
Trustee Barrow.
Yes.
Trustee Harper.
Yes.
Trustee Hager.
Yes.
Trustee Fairwell.
Yes.
Trustee George.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney.
Yes.
Mayor Ferman.
Yes. All right, our next item, unfortunately, we don't go to Z tonight, we just go to L and M.
Let's keep going.
5L, consideration to approve the hiring of a code enforcement officer. Administrator Edwards, can you provide us some context here?
Sure, and there was nothing in the packet. This has been discussed during the OHV. It also, I want to bring to your attention that the building permit department is getting busier, a lot busier. And there is potentially a need for, and it may just be part-time, but for code enforcement, whether it be for OHV enforcement or what's been brought to our attention, and other enforcement in our ordinances. And the question is, do we want to explore, do you want staff to go and explore that at this point, what that would be, what type of fee schedule might be? And I think we just need some direction. There's some different ideas that have been floated to staff, and we need to know what interests the board as a whole, or the majority would like to do at this time. Mayor Furman.
Yeah, I think I still need a little more clarification. Like code enforcement is very general, like, is this traffic and parking enforcement as well as building code and like, that seems like two very different things. So I'm just curious.
It could be, it just depends on what we want. What was discussed through the OHV process and the working group was code enforcement for off-route and that type of thing. But it expanded more as I was talking to staff. Now, that doesn't mean that's the same individual or that anything, but we really need to have some idea if we want to look into what a code enforcement for, let's just start with OHV, for parking, that type of, those type of activities, what's been brought to staff's attention.
So that's another reason I brought up a lot of the fee schedule with the parking issues from the model traffic code for definition. Because if a code enforcement officer did take over some of this in town to alleviate the pressure off of the sheriff's department, that's part of what it would be. It would be, where it's not a delineated sign, what is the real, what's the parking issue there? And it goes in deep. That's not to say that it can't be figured out in a quick and timely manner. But having someone who can be a steward for this code enforcement, especially with the parking issue, that's huge. Getting the signs up is another issue. It's Public Works, making sure that signs are in place.
We talked about trailers as well in that discussion. I forgot to.
So it's kind of coalescing all of that into one person, whether it be part-time, whether it be summer only, whether Bill's department needs that much more enforcement, just for him to continue with everything that he's got on his plate. That was the reason that part of it was discussed during our budget meeting for the finance committee, because we do have a lot that we could probably collect more on as far as parking violations and so on, that we don't actually get the revenue for. So having somebody in that position and just having it, it has to be delineated still, but.
Is it normal? So I'm still stuck on the like building code versus or health code or other code things, and then like traffic and signs and parking. Is it normal to ever combine those two things, or can we separate those and say Bill's department may need more assistance in the near future, but what we're talking about here is traffic and parking? Or am I?
We can focus. Go ahead.
It's all code enforcement. So like I said, it has to be delineated.
Okay.
So the subject was brought up to see whether or not the board was interested in exploring it. And then we direct staff on how to create it and then let them figure out how to delineate it and what it can be. Because personally, I think we're to that point. I mean, let's face it, the vehicles are everywhere. They're parked illegally, taking up 5 delineated parking spaces on.
And there's RVs that are staying.
Exactly.
They're supposed to be. There's just some things. Look, we're talking about does the board feel like it's time for staff to research this issue?
Okay.
And
to be clear, we're not hired somebody tomorrow.
And one of the things we spoke about in our budget meeting was that this position will likely pay for itself with fees. So that could be a on the plus side.
And we need to confirm that. That would.
But but we'll do the research to see if that's.
Well, I was just going to say, I'd be good giving direction to explore this as an option, because I think a lot of our questions that we're asking right now might be answered when staff explores it.
I just want to, add my reservation about a general code enforcement officer, but I'm very supportive of exploring a traffic enforcement.
Okay. Sure. We'll bring everything for y'all to look at, but and we'll delineate the different ones as well, the different types of enforcement. I think we're good. We don't need a motion. Everybody seems like they're okay. Let's look into it unless.
Okay.
Any objection or? Okay. Great. New business, item 5M, consideration to approve OHV maps.
So I've been speaking a lot with the Silverton Standard through Jim Brill. They are preparing and fully preparing to get the OHV maps issued out. I've been working with her on messaging what the OHV working group wants to see, as well as pricing. Currently, the basic cost to print out those pamphlets for about 5,000 maps is $900. For about 10,000 maps is $1,600. Now, last year, unfortunately, things did not work out the way that they had hoped, so they only had a limited number of maps. Personally speaking, working with certain OHV rental companies in town, those were gone within a month. We were desperate. We were making copies of those maps so we could give out to OHV renters as well as walk-ins, just trying to gather information. And this has historically been done out of their pocket, out of the Silverton Standard through either donations or reserve funding that they had. They are currently looking for assistance from the town and from businesses as well to print out enough educational materials, aka the pamphlets, for us to be able to do the education, mitigation, and enforcement that the OHV working group has been speaking about. And this year, we do have high resolution maps that we are going to be able to print up that are downloadable on the website currently, but to have that physical map in hand that you can pass out is invaluable. And I do know that Jen Brill has been absolutely fantastic in communicating with us. She is in a holding pattern and we are trying to get this done before Memorial Day. So we can get enough time to print and distribute those maps. It is a current request. If we can print more than what they did last year, so we don't run out within the first month of the season. But they do need help this year from the town because the town has created the map. The town has historically put the rules in place, but there's been no education and no support for that education before. So we are looking to get some support so we can print out more maps this year to mitigate the OHV groups and motorized groups that are coming through.
Thank you. Trustees?
I think it's great. I'm glad they brought it to our attention. If only 5,000 were printed last year and they were gone by the beginning of the season, it tells you that there were not enough available.
So Nate, we're looking at printing 10,000 for 1,600.
Correct. 10,000 maps would possibly last a month and a half to 2 months because the OHV rental, as well as the traffic that we had historically last year, was well over that. As I mentioned previously, we were making our own paper copies, but for the nice pamphlet with the citations and the expectations, rules and regulations, those maps are wonderful. So 10,000 is just a base cost. I personally suspect that we'll need triple that.
What's the timeline like on when you submit these to print as far as when you receive them?
There is a good turnaround. My understanding is, and I do have Jen Brill as an attendee, if she would like her to raise her hand to correct me. It is about a 2-week turnaround period. So it will be right before Memorial Day. I could possibly be sooner.
I was just thinking it might be pertinent to hold off on this until after our next discussions on this issue, just because like you were saying, we could potentially need triple that. And if that makes our costs cheaper, that could be beneficial too. And it's just, I feel like there's a lot of things that are up in the air.
And I do have Jen Burrell, who did raise her hand. I'll promote her.
This will be a good question for Jen as well. But in this new world order where you go to restaurants and everything's a QR code, and it seems like almost everybody is familiar with that, is there a possibility of just having these QR codes everywhere instead of spending money on maps? And then that's actually something that's on people's phones and with them?
That has been an idea for the OHV working group. It's super easy to create that QR code. Part of the ideas were to put them on the signs entering town, at the visitor center, at the OHV rental companies, at the staging areas. It is wonderful, and it would have the same information going directly to our website. But the pamphlets are absolutely invaluable because people won't have an excuse to say, oh, we didn't know, from the rental companies, from the visitor center pamphlet stations. They'll have that physically in hand to be able to say, well, you have the rules right here, please follow them to the best of your ability.
Trustee Barella?
I'm gonna take off the trustee hat and talk as a business owner. It is an amazing tool as a printed item. There have been plenty of people outside my business, inside my business that have asked for it. Can you show me? I just got stopped. I was parked over here. We were coming in for lunch. Can you, so that in itself is an amazing tool because then you can put you are here, put an X, and that way it's delineated and they understand the direction at which they are going. We can always plead ignorance, which is what we basically did last year. So having a way and a means to try to mitigate issues is far superior to me than just being like, oh, well, there was a QR code, because that was bantered around. I'm not saying that we shouldn't put in a QR code, but the more layers that you add in, the more responsibility is being taken to make sure all guests can't plead ignorance. So I think it's an amazing tool. I have one from 2018 taped down right now, so nobody will steal it, just in case there are any visitors right now, because I don't have any other maps available to me. So it's something that it's a useful tool for every business to have available for their customers and or anybody who's asking. So I've gone so far in the middle of summer to post it on my window. So that way, when people are walking by, it is available. So we're trying to mitigate as a community the mayhem that had happened last year that we were not prepared for. So without putting in and layering on additional signage or anything else, which could be a bigger cost burden, then this is a pretty simple, easy way to mitigate things.
Sure. Jen, would you like to speak on this topic?
Hi all, thank you for the time. Just the history on it is that the map was created by, or the brochure was created by the Silverton Standard a few years back out of frustration by ATV people not knowing where to go or recreationists not knowing where to go. But the Silverton Standard as print is on its way out and most publication businesses are struggling. This just has been an expense that is taking away from the Silverton Standard. We are hitting up other businesses, so it's not going to only be the town that's paying for this brochure. But my understanding is that the town needs the most and has a lot of places to fill with the information kiosks and things, and that they'll often be, taking them from other places. So, and very much so we can print 5,000 or 10,000 now and revisit it in July and print some more. I do think you get the best printing breaks when you order in bulk. And so that would be, my advice is that, if you think you're going to want 20, then 20,000, then, we should print 20,000. And I don't know our deadline on that, but I know that trying to get this turned out for Memorial Day, which is, again, the advice we were given by the business owners in the community. We would have liked to have gotten this approved earlier. So we've just been waiting for the ATV committee to have the meeting and to find out, the direction, obviously, like Trustee Berma said, where the ATV situation is going to go in town.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I guess I would just add that I don't think we should print off enough for the entire summer, because if one of the two ballot initiatives go to a vote and or pass, then either we don't need maps because they're not in town, or we don't need maps because they can be anywhere in town. So yeah, that would be my thoughts.
And I did want to add, the QR code was going to be on it, so anybody can QR code there too.
Awesome.
Cool. Thank you. Mayor.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of echo what those guys said, just if we can, I know the deadline is approaching and having it sooner rather than later is better. If we can just push it back until we know, so it's not cart before the horse situation, that's what I'd be in favor of. But I don't know if we can do like a conditional approval, or if we can approve now and wait or something like that.
Administrator Edwards.
Well, I'm hearing the deadline it takes 2 weeks to carry it. Is that right?
And I think it's less than that. I think we need about 10 days.
I mean, that's going to depend on when the board would schedule any sort of vote to know that. The first day that you all could even consider an ordinance is, I believe, May 18th is the day. Go ahead.
I would just like to reiterate that we already have OHV traffic in town. They have already received tickets for being off route because the only information that we have is on the edge of town. When you first enter are these signs. There are no pamphlets. There are no rules and regulations posted physically, or a pamphlet able for them to have that in hand. It's only on the website and the entrances of town. The traffic is about to increase because Memorial Day is coming in 15 days. And before a decision is made on the petitions, we will need some direction. And yes, I know Jen is working hard on the back end, contacting businesses, but we definitely need something small, even just to get the messaging out there.
Trustee Harper.
Thank you. I can speak for myself and other hoteliers, restaurant operations here in town, that we spent most of last summer running through ink, running through reams of paper, creating this map and copying it and providing that for guests, both at our establishments and just guests to our community. For the nominal fee of $1,600 to provide educational material for guests to our town is a drop in the bucket. I think we should support this.
I actually think we need to support this as well. I just, like we heard from Nathan, that they're coming no matter what, and we got to have something to give to them. And I can understand where you guys are saying coming from, where we need to wait a little bit, but the town trustees have had the power this whole time to make any changes to the route that we see necessary. And I think if we're talking about trying to do it right in the middle of the season, that's the wrong move. So I really think that we need to get some of these packets. I would recommend a minimum of 5,000. I think 10,000 is the way to go.
I just want to clarify that according to the code language, we don't have the ability to do what these ballot initiatives are proposing. We could expand the route, but we can't reduce the route. And the first initiative that we could look at as early as May 18th reduces the route. And it's my understanding that we could not do that otherwise. Unless I'm incorrect.
Well, I think we need to hear from the attorney because I wouldn't know either.
Okay. And I guess the tricky part is it takes 10 days to get these. If we say yes right now, the first date we could consider the first ballot initiative is 8 days from now. And we need them yesterday and no later than 15 days from now. Jen?
The 10 days was the reprint. So I just then, like, if you guys wanted more, I don't think it would take a full 2 weeks for us to get 5,000 maps. I'm not 100% on that, but I feel like that would take more like 7 to 10 days, not 14. As far as the deadline to go to print for this map, yeah, it's today, tomorrow, it's this week.
And then to Trustee George's point, the map could potentially be obsolete, whether the route closes or opens entirely. And so this may be helpful for a period of time, but it may not be helpful for a longer period of time. So those are just all considerations. Trustee Burma?
I'd just say I'd advocate for 5,000 in the short term, especially since we do have OHV traffic and things have, melted out pretty quickly this spring and people are here. And like Deputy Clerk Baxter had mentioned, the reality of, if the status quo extends throughout the summer, the realistic amount is probably like in the 20 to 30,000 range of what's needed. So if you get 5,000 in the short term until we can get a better timeline, you can make up that cost difference by purchasing, 25,000 maps instead of 10,000.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that number is right. Trustee Berma, I thought you said we probably need 20,000. Did you say 25?
I said 3 times the 10,000, so around 30,000.
Right. I thought it was, got it.
I think that sounds like a reasonable compromise.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Proposal is to approve 5,000 maps now and then see what happens. Potentially approve another 25,000 in a bulk order once we get a little bit further along. Do we need a motion?
Spending money, I think so.
And I can make motion to approve the 5,000 purchases of money towards purchasing 5,000 maps for the OHV route. Do we need more context than that?
No.
Second. Thank you, Trustee Harper. Clerk Freed, roll call, please.
Trustee Barilla?
Yes.
Trustee Harper?
Yes.
Trustee Wager?
Yes.
Trustee Burma?
Yes.
Trustee George?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney?
Yes.
Mayor Furman?
Yes. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, trustees. I really appreciate it, but I think more the community appreciates this. This wasn't my pet project. It's a community thing. So we'll have Nathan call us if you guys need more. Thanks again for your time.
Thank you, Jen.
Thanks, Jenny.
See ya.
All right, we are on to the consent agenda. I know that I had a note. Did anyone else have something that needs to be pulled out of the consent agenda or noted? No. I have a note on page 87 with respect to our work session. I'd like my comment that the Anesi law firm has a major conflict of interest as counsel to the Harper Family Train and Hotel to be included in this list of notes. Anything else on the consent agenda, or do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'm desperately looking for the space that you're talking about.
Oh, sure. So it notes, it's on page 87, and it includes your comment that they have a conflict of interest. I also said that, and I said that we shouldn't consider them because of that conflict of interest. And I just wanted to make sure that that was noted.
Mine
Clearly
is,
because it became our top three.
I just had a small little typo that probably doesn't matter, but it just says Kendall meeting hasn't met. Kendall committee, but not a big deal. I think we all get that.
And there was just a typo, but that's not big of a deal.
I guess I had one question on the expenses as well. I noticed that Paul Cosmick's, Attorney Cosmick's bill was almost double what it normally is. And I was wondering if there's anything we need to know about that.
We can talk about that at another time or an executive session.
Okay.
I'd like to.
Yeah. We can set that in executive session.
Okay.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Second.
As revised? As revised.
Yes, as revised.
Second, as revised.
Thank you. Clerk Freeze, roll call, please.
Trustee Berman?
Yes.
Trustee Berman?
Yes.
Trustee Later? Yes. Trustee Beerman?
Yes.
Trustee George?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney?
Yes.
Mayor Perman?
Yes. All right, staff reports.
Lisa, did you have any, or did anybody have any questions for Lisa on her staff report? Don't know if, I know Director Seitz isn't here this evening. Is there any, I'll touch on mine, but is.
I have a question. For Director Branner, Mayor Furman brought up a great point about QR codes and potential apps. One of the directives of the position a while back now was to build a mobile application for the town of Silverton, utilizing QR code as well. This would have been a perfect application as well in conjunction with a physical map. Where are we on that project?
I can speak to that. We had a 3-year contract for a mobile app, which was developed and never saw a ton of traffic, and former administrator Ryder canceled the contract prior to his departure from town hall.
Perfect. Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Lisa? Okay, one of the things that was brought up earlier related to one of the items that's on my staff report is related to the funding from the COVID related. I think that's coming within the next few weeks. That'll be another $140,000 approximately inside, and we need to decide where we want that. Where it really would fit is in water and sewage distribution based upon, and I think that's going to be an important part of that. I think that's it. We had our OHV meeting. There's efforts going on to prepare, and I don't know if there's any questions about that.
Efforts going on to prepare?
Well, just I want to say snowmobile club always, but it's some of the people that are involved, Jim Loki and others are looking at putting we had advertised out and they decided to go ahead and put their efforts together to build stands for signs. And so there's that. And then obviously you all have the maps that we just approved. So that's what's going on the OHV front. The biggest
Code enforcer for parking trailers,
Oh, yeah.
et cetera, maybe.
Yeah.
That was part of that meeting.
That's right. I think one of the things that I informed the trustees is related to the administrator position. Well, we can wait off past staff report. Is there anything on my staff report that you want to talk about before we get to the meat of the final items that are ongoing? Okay. Kelly or Nate, you're here. Or do you want to bring the board's attention?
You know, I apologize. I had a question for Lisa that I didn't ask. I saw that in the Learning Professional Development webinars, there was Facebook best practices, local municipality training series. I was wondering if there were any good lessons learned from that webinar that we could apply.
So the first training that I attended last week was very basic. I have actually signed up for the full series of them, and my understanding is they're going to be going more in depth throughout that series. So what I learned so far is not anything I didn't already know about best practices, but I think there will be some very relevant topics coming up.
Awesome. Thank you. Sorry, back to you, Administrator Edwards.
There's no questions on the report. The other stuff primarily can be handled and it won't take long, but down in the continued business.
Okay. Nice work. Looks like staff's been busy, headed right into the busy season. So thank you all.
We're doing our best to be ready. We know it's going to be busy for all of us. Everybody's doing a lot. Yeah, thanks.
Great. So then, unless there's any other questions for staff, we'll move on to committee reports.
Yeah, we had a budget meeting and Trustee Harper, Trustee Barella, Administrator Edwards and Clerk Breeze. And then thanks to Trustee Barella, we double checked that we had the reserves that are necessary or required to operate for 3 months. If COVID, if we had a terrible shutdown again, or if we, where we were going to get the $150,000 for the grant match, et cetera. So yeah, thanks for reminding us on that, making sure we had that. Yeah, it was short and sweet and good.
No, we went over a lot, but.
Yeah, we went over a lot of other line items. That was the major. The reserves were the major.
Yeah.
No, that was a short budget meeting for as far as budget meetings go, I thought.
It was actually a great meeting. I thought.
We were supposed to have a master plan committee meeting, but we ended up with a number of committee members with conflicts day of, so we didn't have a quorum. So that meeting will be rescheduled. There's no date set for that yet. But hearing the progress from community builders is great, and we'll continue to check in with them. Any other committee meetings? Cool. Trustee reports. I have a quick one. I connected with JC at the transfer station, and he said that it would be super helpful if there was some additional signage and the possibility of cameras going into the summer season. Cameras, I think, are challenging because there's no internet at the transfer station. So it'd have to be something that records locally that they'd be able to review, which is still good, but not as good as if you could get alerts on your phone and monitor it. And just the thought that I had immediately after that is there's a company called Wise, and I don't know if there's a problem with doing something like this with municipal uses, but it's WYZE. Their cameras are like $30, and you can put a USD card in that'll record like 7 days of history. It seems like if that would be a major value add to the transfer station for the $30 plus a USD card, that might be a good, and they make outdoor ones that I think are $50, but it's still not historically what security cameras cost, which can be in the high hundreds to thousands of dollars.
And they would just review the data on the drive if they noticed something that was.
Go ahead. I guess the bigger suggestion would be to just connect with JC and Tracy and see what exactly it is that their constraints or concerns are and how we could help them.
We had a discussion about this, I believe it was last year, about getting cameras and signs out there. Bill McDougall and I are going to look at getting more signs out there. We had looked about the cameras and we were looking at who's going to be watching those cameras. Somebody get paid to sit and watch these cameras. How are we going to work that out? We had talked to Chris at Bruin about that also.
So I'd note with the Wise ones, what's really cool is it's totally free once you buy the hardware, and it creates an alert in the app that you use anytime that you can set it for motion or person or sound. And so it could be something where if there were an issue, you don't have to like go back and watch, 3 days of feed. You just go and hit each of the alerts that popped up, and it's very quick to identify like what it is you're looking for, because you just have to have done it within 7 days. But I don't know if there's other issues with a municipality using something like that. I don't know how secure the software is or other things like that.
It sounds like you'd just like us to follow up on that right now and see if that might work for us out there.
And do they use cameras at any of their other transfer stations or areas? And then if so, what do they use?
Great question.
I think Chris has answered that for us before, or Tracy has, and they do, but our problem is the internet out there. So why aren't we looking to Elon Musk? Come on, what's that thing called?
Doesn't he have a satellite right above it that he can watch?
Just give us a satellite.
Sky.
Or $100 deposit, a $400 hardware, and $100 a month for Starlink.
There you go. Could we get a net over the whole town? And
Okay, another potential option for camera are wildlife game cameras, because they take a really low energy and they can be on for a really long time. And it's similar to Wise, like you can set it to record for motion or.
Staff will work, we'll follow up on this.
I do not have any other reports for myself. Any other trustees have?
Well, I'd like to touch on the transfer station. I don't get out a lot, so I had a great excursion Saturday to the transfer station. That is the cleanest I've seen that place in years. They're doing a great job. JC and Tracy, they're doing a fantastic job, and I couldn't be more proud of what they're doing out there to keep our town and keep that area beautiful. They really are. Good job, guys.
yes, my son works very, very hard out there, and he's been picking a section, and he just says, Mom, I'm gonna go clean this area right here. Gathers up all the trash from different sections of the hillside and gathers it in. So he does an excellent job, and I'm very proud of his mother.
I just wanted to kind of make an encouraging statement for us as leaders of our community, Jim, to just be really good at mask wearing, especially here in town hall. It's the rule. And I just spend a lot of time with students all day long in the classroom, trying to encourage them to wear their masks so we can stay in school and not be quarantined and finish out the year really strong. And want to encourage us to step up as models in the community to do that.
I really appreciate it. Thank you. I am double vaccinated, just so everyone knows, and I am very proud of that. Thank you.
Awesome, thanks. Great.
And
I'm
do
vaccinated.
that as well. I even performed live for a public service announcement. So
Thanks. That was actually my other thing. Yeah.
thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Continued business.
Continued business.
Okay, affordable housing. There's not a big update, but for tonight, but I did talk to Beth Kramer, who with San Juan Development's looking into some different policies and some different things we can look at. She's going to be here probably for right now with the trustees' permission, like to be able to have a work session 6 to 7 before our next meeting to talk about housing. There's also Sean Andrietta and a friend that's worked on, he's worked with, and he recommends for alternative materials and how they've done it in other places. I think they're also going to present some of local source materials such as plywood and other things that we might be able to drop the price down. I think it'll be interesting for a bunch of people, and we'll have a good presentation from 6 to 7 on the 24th. If you all are okay, I know that we'll do our best to get that latter part of that meeting and get done, but if everybody could make it, I think we're putting together something that'll be of value for that hour. Particularly about the locally sourced materials, what there is now and what there might be in 6 months from now. And I say local, I'm talking about the region, but I know the prices are high, and it sounds like there's some costs that can be decreased, which is an important part for the building community as well.
Great.
Is everybody comfortable with that? Attorney update, Kelly?
The attorney interviews are starting tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. and running for the afternoon. We have 3 attorneys that we're looking at right now.
Say tomorrow.
Thanks, clerk.
Oh, do the attorney interviews in this room? Or are you going to be meeting here?
Oh.
Kelly,
Oh, I didn't hear you.
are the attorney interviews going to be in this room? Is this where we're meeting at 9?
We had had the list of questions that we received that were based on the last round of interviews. I believe we received some input. Did Paul review that and provide any input? And do we have copies of those updated questions for tomorrow morning?
No, I did not get it to Paul. I will get it to him first thing in the morning, have him look at it. I'm gonna be here at 7 a.m. I only got one suggestion of change on questions, and that was it.
Okay. Nate?
I do have a question for logistics. Will we all be in attendance for tomorrow's in-person meeting, or will any trustees need to Zoom?
I'll be here.
Here.
Thank you.
Will we have like coffee and snacks and stuff in the morning?
Only if you're buying.
I mean, I guess I mean, that's a long day to not have any coffee and snacks. Is that?
Town can get all that. We'll go through the day and get it. Let's talk to Coffee Bear in the morning, and then we'll go from there.
Okay.
I don't think there's another coffee shop, is there, that I've missed?
There is Bank.
Coal Bank now does.
Coal Bank
And Lone Spur.
Yeah.
Lone Spur Coffee.
So let's split that between, and what?
Lone Spur.
Let's figure that all out in the morning.
Yeah, either use, or you can use 2 of them, use 1 tomorrow and use 2 for the administrator.
Yeah, we'll talk first thing in the morning. I'll be here early.
Cool. And then we'll have printouts of those questions tomorrow as well. Does anyone need the attorney packet printed again, or are we good to save paper with the packets we already received?
I gave you later and Mayor Pro Tim Barney.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, good.
So it doesn't sound like we need additional printouts of those packets, just the questions.
Good.
Cool. Anything else on the attorneys? All right, administrator update.
Yes, I had told you that I would have by midweek, something to you about the whole layout of our meetings. That's the 19th, 20th, 21st. The 19th is complicated. We're waiting for that Wednesday date that was referred to earlier by Trustee Barella and the COVID. We're trying to figure out who can meet and greet and what that's going to look like. Also, there will only be 4 interviews that day. We had one person take one individual applicant took their application. They just said that they're withdrawing their name. We have a second one, the 5th person who has a conflict. They have a graduation and another meeting that there's no family graduation, okay, a daughter, that they can't meet on that day. That means we're going to have, and then there was Patrick Rondinelli, who is taking part of that day. I think we're going to have 4 interviews on that day at this time, but I'm trying to identify everybody who's going to be able to be there and trying to have Patrick with us, even if he has to come in by Zoom, so he can engage in that with us. But that's going to push the day down. The one issue that we were hoping that we could re-meet on Friday. The individual, the 5th individual who can't interview, won't be able to interview until Saturday or later. I'm going to email that to you all probably tomorrow morning at some time and lay all that out. It's just been juggling. There's another thing you need to be aware. Administrator Tukey will not be able to participate in these interviews, and he was on the community panel. And I just want you to know, he has a personal commitment at that time. So I just want you to know why you haven't seen anything. There's been a lot of moving parts, and I wanted to try to save you on having 5 emails of the different things. But I have a pretty good idea how it's going to play out. We'll try to start probably at 8 o'clock rather than 7:30. And then do an 8 based on, to have Patrick there. I think it would be 8 to 9:30, 9:30 to 11. We'll break and we'll regroup at 1:30 to 3, and then 3 to 4:30. And we'll have interviewed everybody except the one individual based upon, we haven't announced the names yet. I want to email that to you because it's an interview process. And it's going to be a little tricky, but I don't know that necessarily if we go ahead and interview the 5th person, and we could decide that at a different time, but I'll follow up with you later.
Thank you.
I don't think we'll be meeting on Friday if we interview the 5th person with everyone. So I think just know right now that that's what's in flux. Yes, trustee?
Yeah.
Harper?
Tomorrow, after we conclude our 3rd meeting at 1:30, we have a 20-minute just us discussion? Or 30-minute or 5 or?
I'm not going to be involved in that just because I needed to recuse myself.
I believe what we talked about was having a recap meeting at the end of the day.
Perfect.
It wasn't included in our email schedule, but I think that's what Clerk Trees had suggested and what Trustee Barilla said we've done previously.
Thank you.
And then I guess, sorry, to go back to the attorney real quick. So interviews tomorrow, recap discussion, and then do we want to set, like, maybe it may be too rushed to make a decision during that 20-minute period. Do we want to just figure it out during that 20-minute period, what the follow-ups are, or do we want to try and set any trajectory today? I guess as I say it out loud, it seems most appropriate to just figure it out during the recap meeting of what we'd like to do from that point on.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, so you were saying on the administrator update, it's unlikely if we were to interview the 5th person to have the meeting on Friday, they're available Saturday. I don't know our availability Saturday, but if we did do that, then we could have an executive session before the meeting on Monday instead of on Friday, because we already have a 7 p.m. meeting on Monday.
Yeah, let me, and I'm sure that the individual could meet after that Saturday, the following week. My big concern is that we have a lot of people And beyond ourselves, we have the community panel, which is a very important part of this process.
Right.
We may all say that we can be here Saturday, right? But they may not be. And then you start pulling that, you take away, it just, I'm a little hesitant to say interview on Saturday until we know that our committee, our panel, our community panel can be involved as well. Why don't you let me email you what I need to email the trustees on what's going on and who and when and where, and then we can make a decision.
Great.
Yeah.
Sound good to everybody?
Yeah, good.
Cool. OHVs. Is there a presentation by the task force?
No, there just was, there were a lot of questions that we answered and people informed us what they were doing. There are questions about that.
Yeah, I put on my jacket. Well, at the last meeting, we received the kind of brainstorm. And then I don't think that the board gave direction, but I asked for like a more cohesive proposal on what the task force recommended in terms of action items. It sounds like they just went ahead and took some initiative to make the signposts, prepare the maps, and suggest the code enforcement officer.
That's what was from the meeting. Was there anything else, Trustee George or Trustee Burrell? Did I miss him? Most of that meeting, let me just go a step back. Most of that meeting was answering questions that the community had right now about what's happening right now. That's what that purpose was. Striping, do we have equipment? What's the schedule for striping and things like that? What came out of that was, again, discussion of enforcement and then groups of people that are putting together, I think it's buckets and concrete with posts for signs and using the signs that we already have.
Trustee Birma.
Would it be too much to try and pick a date to, just because that period for consideration on the first petition does open up in 8 days? To kind of do a consensus of when we'd like to address that.
Are you wanting to set a meeting on the 18th?
I think with the conversations we had around the maps and all the other kind of open-ended issues, it seems like it would be pertinent to resolve that issue sooner rather than later. But I would like to hear other folks weigh in on it.
I support the sooner than later approach. May 17th, or May 18th?
You can begin considering on May 18th. You could consider the ordinance as it is, or you could consider a date to set for election. You cannot, just to be clear, and I think everybody here knows this, but a no vote requires an election, and not voting on it at all requires an election for both petitions. Go ahead, Trustee Bro.
So why wouldn't we just run them in conjunction and put them both together somewhere after? We can put one on the meeting on the 24th, and you can put the second one on the 14th, rather than trying to have a special meeting. Just put it on the regular agenda.
Aren't we? I feel like we're just meeting constantly right now.
That's exactly why I'm saying just put it on the regular agenda. There's no reason that the one from the 17th, or sorry, excuse me, the 8th through the 7th couldn't be considered on the 24th. And then the next one is just on the regular meeting agenda on the 14th. And if they're both referred over to ballot measure, then creating one date for both that is within the timeframes. You've got all the way up to October 14th. and the other one is sets within that same time frame. So using that end date as a date, if it's referred over to ballot measure, would be perfect for both referendums. Or petitions, excuse me, not referendums.
I feel like one of the things that we've been totally hamstrung by and received a lot of criticism for is not making firm decisions about what to do about OHVs. And the reason that we've been stuck is because we've had so much uncertainty about what the future holds with respect to OHVs, as opposed to the accusations that we purposefully stalled. I think with that in mind, the sooner that we could provide clarity or certainty around what's happening with respect to these citizen initiatives, the better off we would be. I would support a special meeting on May 18th to consider the first initiative.
I believe that would conflict with the planning commission, still kind of up in the air whether or not we're gonna have a meeting, but that is Tuesday. Third Tuesday of the month, actually.
It's always the third Tuesday, right?
Yep.
Okay, I'm trying to set another thing.
We're meeting on the 19th though, too. And the 20th and the 20th.
Meet and greet. Yeah.
We'll all be here for meet and greet. Can we do it after meet and greet?
Meet and greet is typically held at Kendall Mountain, is it not?
Correct.
Mhm.
But we're all available on the 19th then for the meet and greet.
Just because there's already engagement.
Typically, it's the board goes first for the meet and the greet, and then after that, it's the public, so.
The public's gonna be, I'm thinking right now for the meet and greet, it's probably gonna end up being, I know what we talked about, but based upon COVID and other, that it'll be staff and trustees with the candidates from 5 to 6. And then 6 to 7 will be the community involvement panel. I'm not sure that we can have the greater community meet with them indoors based upon what's going on until we know for sure with.
Current or future?
What's that?
Current or future?
Current restrictions or future restrictions?
Well, under the current restrictions, and I don't know what's going to happen after Wednesday. That's one of the issues. We may have to set an RSVP. Anyway, I'll leave it at that, but that's probably 6 to 7 on the 19th.
So could we have a 7:30 special meeting?
That's up to you.
Technically, we can.
Yeah.
I would be a proponent of this not being on, at least not being on added to an agenda, just because our agendas do tend to get long, and I feel like this needs as little or as much time as we should give it and as much focus as we can give it.
So you want to make sure then, if you're going to be advertising that, you're going to be advertising, you're going to have to take all of the Zoom equipment and set it up over it there, because it has to be something that is viewed by the public.
Does it have to be over there?
To the meet and greet
Well,
here?
we're already there. So now you're suggesting that we go there and then turn around and come back here?
No, I was just wondering why we don't have it all here, just because of the restrictions and all the equipment already being here. I don't want to take us off track, but.
Yeah, and to be clear, I wasn't advocating necessarily that day. I was just saying, I think it shouldn't be added to an already packed agenda. I think we should discuss that topic on its own.
When you're saying that, Jordan, just to be, excuse me, Trustee Behrman, you're saying that you don't think that we should do it 24th?
Yeah, that's more or less what I'm advocating.
Okay.
I think that since they're referendums, they got signatures. I think we should take care of this as soon as possible. Get it on the books, make a decision, and then let people know that we're taking, their petition seriously and trying to get them finished. So I would be for doing it sooner rather than later.
May 18th would be my preference because I share that same opinion.
We'd be missing 2 members of the board.
What time is the planning commission meeting?
7 o'clock.
Oh, so can we do?
I don't think we can do it before for the same reason that trustee Bierma just said, because
you need to have public comment.
Yeah, okay.
unless we did it early, like 5, but then we still have a 7 PM hard cut. And if comments go for hours, then who knows?
I think there's going to be a lot of public comment.
Okay.
Like, I would suggest 7:30 on the 19th. And I'd suggest that we do it in the same place that we have the meet and greet. That gives people 30 minutes to clear out after the community component.
I'm really having a hard time with that because we're supposed to be focusing on picking the best town administrator.
Yep.
We're going to be setting ourselves up for failure if we go in not at our top game to interview these people that we've asked to come here and tell us what they're about. I think we need to, let's just
Interviews start at 7 AM the next
try
day.
to just be realistic about this. I mean, the meeting could potentially go to 10 o'clock with how controversial this issue is, so HV and public comment. So we're saying that we're gonna have an 11 o'clock meeting and then come into work and do 4 town administrator interviews the very next day and say that we're at the top of our game.
I think that's a great point. I think with that in mind, I would ask that maybe the planning commission reschedule that meeting. Or that you two excuse yourself from the planning commission so we could do it on the 18th, because I also agree with trustee George. I agree with that point very much, but I also agree with trustee George that this should happen as soon as possible.
I also agree with your point. I forgot we were doing 4 interviews the next morning immediately after, but.
But none of us would have picked this schedule, right? This is not by our choosing.
I really don't see the harm in doing it on a following Wednesday or something.
The following week is just
We're putting it on Monday night's agenda on the 24th.
so crazy for school.
And I think we need to clear most of the agenda.
We have our evening, we have.
This is hard for everybody. I mean, 4
Graduation.
days in a row is going to be extremely difficult. That's a huge ask, in my opinion.
There currently isn't a plan to hold the planning commission meeting on the 18th because none of the current applications are complete. That was emails
Up in the
from,
air because there are some applications that we could talk about. I think we're waiting to hear back from Lisa Adair, planning director Adair, as to whether or not those applications are going to be ready for discussion or not. But it's going to be kind of last minute decision from what I understand.
And further, we've had several other board members that want to have the meeting so that nothing backs up.
I believe I'm on all those emails too, and I only saw one email supporting the meeting. But if Planner Adair is on here, could we ask her?
I support the meeting.
Okay.
Is 1 week really going to make that big a deal?
For me, it's a personal,
Planner Adair, could you speak to the likelihood of the meeting on May 18th for the planning commission?
Yes, it would not be up to me. I think it would officially be up to the chairman, Ken Safransky. I don't have anything ready for the planning commission to review. If there were projects that I could recommend approval with certain contingencies, I would definitely put them on the agenda, but there's nothing even close to ready. And those packets would be due this Thursday. So I'm against having the planning commission meeting on May 18th. I strongly recommend it gets canceled. However, that would be up to Chairman Ken Safransky.
Thank you.
Literally, if the meeting is held, I'm not even sure what I'd even put on the agenda because I have nothing that's ready to discuss.
Well, I propose that we have the meeting on May 18th. I guess we should just, with this clearly contentious and not all in agreement, let's just go around the table.
I strongly support the 18th.
Trustee Uyghur?
I'm frustrated by the change in time commitment that being a trustee has required over the past 2 years. The first 4 years that I had on this, I thought it was actually a pretty reasonable request, the kind of work that we were doing, and considering that we don't get paid really hardly anything, basically a volunteer job. And now we're doing meetings every single week with the various other committee meetings that we're part of. Many of us are doing 2 to 3 meetings every single week. You know, I understand where you guys are coming from. It's hard with your work, but it's also hard with other people's work. And that's where I'm at. I would just like to see us take a more metered approach instead of cramming everything in all at once, but.
I think you're absolutely right, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think as Silverton grows, I think in bigger places, this could be a full-time job. You know, I mean, being on a city council, and I think as Silverton grows and we see more of these issues, it's going to demand more time. And I think that might just be what we're looking at with all the growth that we're seeing in our town as we go forward. And I don't have a solution. I just want to recognize that I think you're right. I think it's going to end up taking more and more out of every council member. So
Also acknowledge this is a very taxing time commitment in general. I'm also hopeful that we've dealt with a lot in the last year that seems relatively abnormal, and I'm hopeful that we can handle these issues and move towards a more reasonable schedule in the near future.
And I would totally agree. I'm right there with you on time commitment. I enjoy spending time with my new little son. And next week is a time commitment I am dreading, but I would not, like looking at my calendar, I would not want to do it the week after that or the week after that. I mean, I've been a business owner in, downtown before I was a teacher, and that week ramping up to Memorial Day weekend is also super, super busy. And it just seems like the 18th, even though it's 4 days in a row, is the least painful option to me. I 100% agree with it's big time commitment.
You're next, sir. Or I've started the round robin. I advocate for the 18th.
I would advocate for the 18th out of not having any better day, and that, resolving it sooner than later seems like the best option.
I would like to push it back to the following week.
I'd like to see it on the 24th on the regular agenda of the meeting packet. So it's properly advertised and nobody can plead ignorance if they weren't informed or told, because that's where it should be, is on a regular meeting packet, in my opinion.
yeah, I think we should do it as soon as possible and just get it done with.
So 4 people in favor of the 18th. So subject to the planning commission meeting actually being canceled.
And I should add a comment, if the planning commission meeting is canceled. If it's not, I think we move it back to the other meeting because we can't have it the night before the interviews.
No.
Okay.
So
if the planning commission meeting is canceled, we'll have that meeting at 7 o'clock on the 18th. If the planning commission is not canceled, we will add this to the agenda on the 24th.
Just going to ask for permission, if this gets put on the 24th, that we start the meeting at 6 on the 24th, and we move the housing to another special meeting. I think that if it's on the regular agenda, that it's going to be a long deal. I don't want to marginalize the housing, but I think it'll get overshadowed what needs to be that housing discussion. So are the trustees comfortable if we start the regular meeting at 6, if it gets moved to the 24th, and rearrange when we're going to do the housing discussion? Is that, I'm thinking ahead. If I understand correctly, if the planning commission meeting is canceled, it's going to be on the 18th, just for staff to know. If it's not, it's going to go on the 24th, and I'm going to reschedule at a different time, this housing presentation.
Okay.
Is there any discussion on that? Okay.
Anybody else? All right, letter from the 4th of July committee.
Okay, it says Town Board of Trustees, the 4th of July Association has been in discussions with the Public Information Officer, Deanne Gallegos, who is also our Marketing Director, and Jim Donovan, the San Juan Office of Emergency Management. The current health order expires on May 15th. With the uncertainty of the next round of public health orders, we're going to extend the go, no-go date per contract, where we need to receive and review the newest health orders and have an in-depth discussion with the county health department, the OEM, and potential fire restrictions. We expect to have a plan by May 25th, undersigned myself, Sharon Heinbaugh, Amy Neal, Jim Harper, and Deanne Gallegos. So per contract, that's what was needed, because that expired on the same date. The formulated plan could change, and we need to make sure that everything is in line with all of the current health orders.
So that means that we wouldn't know about 4th of July until June 14th? How does that work?
That was just a date. It would most likely be on the agenda. It would be given, the plan would be given on the 24th as well.
Okay.
So it was just to extend enough time to have
Get through the health.
local emergency, oh my God, the leprechaun meeting, I can't think of the name of that, with Jim Donovan, in order to make sure that we have all of the representation from the fire department, the sheriff's department, the ambulance association, and Jim Donovan's office, because we all have to hold a meeting, which is done anytime we do any large event. Doesn't matter, it's done for the Iron Horse as well, to make sure everything is covered, you know that, and I sit on them too. So it's just to make sure that everything is scheduled properly.
Okay.
So, because we can't do anything until the health order comes out, because it would change the directive that we had already created. Sure. Jim Donovan.
So the contract doesn't allow the 4th of July committee to extend the go, no go date, but I'm in full support of the extension. So I'm just saying that I think we need to take a formal action to have like a letter amendment or some type of written verbal agreement to change the provision.
Instead of writing that the town we would let the board know exactly what was happening. So
I have it in front of me.
extending the date is the necessity of the contract, because the go, no-go date cannot be accommodated because of the public health orders. And we had relied 100% on the public health orders to clarify what was going to be happening for all events in the state of Colorado.
Thank you. My point is that, not that I disagree with the request, but from a process perspective, the contract, which I have in front of me, says that the committee will provide the town with notice of go or no go prior to May 16th, period. So this is not a notice of go or no go. This is a request for an extension of the go or no go, which I fully support. And I just think we need to have in writing something that modifies the provision in the contract that says we need a specific go, no go notice by the 16th. So I'm in full support.
I do believe the rest of the thing reads that it was all reliant on public health orders, and that was the extent of the go, no go date. Nobody could foresee that they were going to put it on the same date.
And I totally agree. I'm only talking about the process we should take to not be ignoring what the provision of the contract says. So I'm in full support of the extension to May 25th, but I think we need to have some type of written confirmation from the town confirming its acceptance of this request that is in conflict with this provision in the contract.
Could we just make a motion to grant the extension, and it would be in the minutes?
That would be sufficient. That would be a contract extension. that would work without anybody signing anything.
As long as it doesn't say all amendments have to be in writing, which you could just double check real quick.
Then I'll write that, I'll get that prepared tomorrow if that's what it says.
Cool.
All we need from the board right now is a motion to extend the date for what we're asking for, Trustee Bro?
May 25th.
May 25th.
Just because that's part of
Next
the
meeting.
process that has to happen in order to make sure that we are following the public health orders, because this was the whole discussion before, because Shane was the one who wanted the hard date on the go, no go, and we were guessing because we had no idea when the public health orders would come out.
Just to clarify again, I'm in full support of this request.
I make a motion that we extend the date from the 4th of July contract to, from the 16th to the 25th of May.
Is there a second?
I can say that.
Thank you. Clerk Freeze, roll call, please.
Trustee Berman,
Recuse.
trustee Harper,
Recuse.
trustee Wager,
Yes.
trustee Berman,
Yes.
trustee George,
Yes.
Mayor Martin,
Yes.
Mayor Berman.
Yes. Anything else before we open our second public comment period? All right. At this time, we will now open public comment for this meeting. Comments must be limited to 3 minutes in duration. If you're on the Zoom, by clicking raise hand. I see that we have one comment. Ms. Melody Skinner. You, once you unmute yourself, the floor is yours.
I'm assuming you can hear me.
We can.
This is probably going to make me very unpopular in town, but I've been thinking about this for at least 2.5 years. You're just not making enough money as board members. And I think you seriously should give a lot of thought in raising the pay. You're all putting in an extraordinary amount of time in a lot of business that used to be very simple and now requires a lot of steps. So I just want you to know that this is of my own accord. And when people start yelling at you, it was my fault. Have a great evening.
Thank you. It does not appear we have any other public comments this evening. The time is now 10:04 p.m. and I adjourn this meeting. I'll see you all bright and early tomorrow morning.